Imagine being convicted on the word of one man, a co-conspirator who made a deal to save his own life. And then he takes it all back. But Zach Adams, well, he remains in prison, convicted. This is the 2017 rewatch of Zach Adams' trial as we impatiently await for the judge's word on the post-conviction hearing that took place earlier this year. This is Defense Diaries. Let's hit it. Good afternoon, beautiful humans. I'm Bob Mata. This is Defense Diaries. And as always, just by the seat of her pants, made it into her chair, I am joined by my beautiful and brilliant co-host, Allie. What's up, girl?
Hey, babe. Hey, all.
So we're back at it. We are the final chapter, if you will, of the Zach Adams 2017 trial rewatch. And it's been just as horrific as everybody promised it would be. It's been insane. So we're left only with, if you'll remember, in part 17, we ended with the defense resting. So now we're going to check out, which I think was a pretty brief 48, something like that minute rebuttal by the state. Closings, fini. That's it.
Wait. So the state's putting on rebuttal evidence or the rebuttal closing?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Oh,
it's the rebuttal case. It's not
okay, because I'm just working on the header.
We haven't done any closings yet.
All right.
So that would be a thing. That would be a real thing. All right. So now the trick is, and look, fair warning, the tech wizardry is going to be at an all-time high today because I did no prep work. We're working so hard on putting the Aaron Spencer fundraiser together, which is happening this Saturday, 5/23, 10 a.m. Central to 10 p.m. Central.
Hopefully y'all don't have like long weekend plans, which Bobby didn't realize.
Everybody can pop in. You can pop in on your phone. Look, I'm going to put it this way. Like the lineup I'm putting together, when I say I mean we, is epic. It's epic. All walks of life, attorneys, non-attorneys, creators, everybody that feels that Aaron Spencer needs to walk. And then there's DB. Oh, I kid. I don't even know if he's in here yet, but hopefully he'll watch that. I don't know if DB is still on that. Like he had that position, and I don't even know if he had that position. He was giving resistance. Let me put it that way. Which is fair. It's fair. What's that? What's that noise?
So
I hear a noise. All right, hold on.
Wait, I got to tell you what it is. I don't know when this is. So I just happened to wait. No, I don't want it to go anywhere. Just pause. How do you pause? So I just happened to get on because. So damn it.
Wow, you blew it.
It's at rapping. It's some sort of event.
It's who?
At rapping Atlas.
I mean, he raps all the time.
But it's like at some sort of special event. He's killing it.
My God. Somebody's at the door. Hold on.
Our angel already sent us $25. So, I stopped doing social media like after the, what was the documentary? Perimenopause brain. The Social Dilemma. And I'm like, I'm getting off Facebook and social media. Like, no one even noticed it, but I did get off. And then Bob had to and then I kind of hung around Insta like every once in a while and then completely dropped that as well. So then obviously Bob was like, you have to get on X. So, I started doing that, but we were getting on social media to look for like other creators. So I got on, I think this is Instagram, assuming it's Instagram. And like one of our friends is like killing it, like rapping. So, but I don't know. Maybe that happens all the time. I just don't know it because I'm never on it. But he
it was a rookie sales pimp who
at the door.
I really brutalized pretty badly. I feel bad, actually.
You're like, don't bother me at 2:30 on a Thursday.
No, I'm like, I'm on a live. I said I'm on a YouTube live right now. He's like, I'm like, dude, I'm speaking to English. And
so you only answered it so the dog would go away? Was that the? Or
I don't know. It could have been somebody like important. I don't know.
Coming in the door.
Oh, I don't know. All right.
Oh, so as you were leaving, I was starting to say like Kim, our angel, already sent us. I saw the notification pop up.
She is the most delightful creature.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kim, for your support.
There's a critter
generosity
crawling on me.
Oh boy.
I thought I felt it on the back of my neck.
I
didn't like it.
Shake off.
All right. Wait, history, you're on lives all the time. Right? I think you are.
What do you mean history is? Yeah, we're talking about.
Well, she says I'm on a live. Oh, she was mimicking what I was saying. I see. All right. So,
Lord. So
okay, hold on. So that's the beginning of what it sounds like a terrible closing argument. Hold on. I went too far.
You went too far, people.
I went to bridge too far.
You went to bridge too far.
Okay.
So for anyone else out there, planning a fundraiser, double check the calendar. Make sure you're not on a long holiday where people tend to go away.
Hey, do we have any of our Zach Adam aficionados in the house? Is DB in here or
I don't
let's see. Who's the other gal who like knows it like the back of her hand?
I don't see anybody.
I'll know it when I see it. I'm trying to find out if
see a bunch of mods. Thanks.
There might not have been a rebuttal case. Let me see if no. Okay, so yeah, no rebuttal. All right. Okay. So there was no rebuttal. It ended with Jonathan Reeves, defense resting. We're going to skip jury instructions entirely.
They do the closings, all the instructions before the closings? Or maybe some and then more?
I don't care. We're not doing any of the instructions.
Right. I get it.
None. Not one of them. All right. Okay. So we're going to start with the defense. No, prosecution, their opening closing. And then defense closing, and then there's going to be the rebuttal closing. All right. Okay, so jury instructions. Okay. All right, you guys ready for all right, so before I'm assuming you could hear that because it's loud as hell for me when I'm playing it. All right, so
I didn't hear anything that you played right there. So
oh, you couldn't? Well, I didn't have it up yet. All right, so you guys, we need you here. All 101 of you. Share this, and I'm not talking about Zach. I mean, share this too, but we need you leading into Saturday. We need as many people finding that live, this epic thing that we've been putting together for a week plus. We want as many people finding that, knowing that it exists as possible. So if you are on socials anywhere, share the link, talk about it, do something. It's
hashtag Aaron Spencer.
Yeah, hashtag Aaron Spencer. Well, it's actually free Aaron Spencer, but
whichever ones get there,
I think free Aaron Spencer is
probably depends your platform, right?
I don't know.
Depends which one you're on.
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, maybe if you're on the TikToks or the Instas, tag those. Tag those. There's a bunch of some creators who really follow this that have large followings. Maybe tag them. So tag them. About it. I'm gonna do that, but
she's gonna do it.
No one sees anything I post.
No one.
I'm never on there.
She's never
like, TikTok. Like
not her shit. All right. So we need y'all, is what we're trying to say. We need y'all. Spread the word. Spread the word. I'm gonna pull up the graphic before we start watching this because if you're not paying attention or if you're not on Twitter and you have no way of knowing. It's like a very fluid situation with the guest list. And
I've got
pretty
the updated list.
pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. No, you don't have the updated one. The
I do.
updated crap.
No, not a graphic. I have the list.
Right. I'm talking about the graphic.
Oh,
Give a
okay.
shit about the list. Screw the list. All right, let's see. Share screen. Let me get this thing up. Boop. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Let me pull it up. Share screen. The window. Look at this. Look at this lineup so far. So there's Aaron and Heather looking all sweet and wonderful. All right. So far, this is who we've got. This is who we got lined up. We got Heather Spencer, which is pretty awesome. David Yannetti, Andy Baldwin, Melanie Little, Sonny Slaughter, Mark Betterow, Ian Runkle, Judge Erskine, Tony Bruschi and Robin Dreek, former Fed, Michael Bryant, lawyer extraordinaire over at Justice Served, Brandy Churchwell, 13th Juror Podcast, my boy, Bob Ruff, Lauren Conlon, we all love Scoop, Mel and Rebecca from over at Something's Off. We've got Lauren Katie, PI extraordinaire. She was deep into Kelsey's case. And we love her. The great Nick Starro. I got to ask if it's Starro or Starro. When Nick gets gone, I've got to ask him which was the like. I would say Starro, but it could be Starro.
He probably says it, you know.
I'm not listening to other people's shit to find out how they pronounce it.
I know. I'm just saying we probably should remember it from the times that you have been on there with him and listened.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't. So Kristen K, True Crime Mama. So Kristen is amazing. She's deep into Aaron's case. True Crime Mama. She's got a really nice platform, and she's been highlighting Aaron's case. So I was trying to get people that I know that a lot of our base will love, like a lot of the folks that were involved with Reed. And I needed to pull in people that were involved and are covering heavily. True Crime Mama is one of those that's covering Aaron Spencer very, very heavily, as is Kristen. Stevie, my boy from Publicly Buzzed, the Broken Baker, obviously. Kat Williams, who Allie and I just simply adore. Could not adore more.
Yes.
One of my favorite creators,
sweet.
Actually. Jimmy, the great Auntie Deb, for some comedic relief. He'll be popping in. Sean Martin from Potentially Criminal. His channel's great. And the lovely and talented Misdemeanor. I've also the great Mac McCullum is going to be joining us. I haven't gotten her locked down as to a time yet. Let's see, and I'm trying to get Mikey King, who I love. I love Mike. He's a good doer. He's a good doer. I don't give a shit if you disagree with Mike on certain cases. I don't care about that stuff. And you shouldn't either. You don't judge, I don't like him because he doesn't agree with me on Karen Reed. Who gives a shit? Seriously. You're not Karen Reed's sister or brother or uncle or father or child. You can feel passionate about a case and still not dislike somebody simply because they disagree with you about a case. It's that simple. I mean, like, I don't hate every prosecutor I went against during my entire career, and we clearly disagreed about cases. I mean, I did hate some of them. Some of them I really, really hated, but not personally. I hated them because of their office, which may be worse. I don't know. So yeah, but Mike is a wonderful human being. He's out there. He's been fighting the good fight for a long time. I love Mike King. And same with Mac. Mac's phenomenal. And Mac is very much, Mac floats occasionally, but Mac was very much on the, I don't think Richard Allen did it, but then Julie Grant might have had her on, and Julie would sway people, because Julie towards the end there turned into a real torch and pitchfork gal, like she was heavy duty prosecution side. And it was like, they're supposed to remain neutral over there at Court TV, which is why Vinny's not coming on. Like I text Vinny. Vinny was going to come on. He's like, I can't do it. Same with Josh. Josh Schiffer was going to come on. He's like, I have to maintain neutrality for my appearances. I don't want to take a hit on those because I'm taking a position on something. So, some people are busy. Melanie carved out time for us, which was lovely.
When you say there's a bunch of Mels and Melanie, are you talking about
Melanie Little?
Okay.
I'll call Mel from Rebecca and Mel. Melanie's going to always be Melanie Little. There's not a bunch. There's 2. That was a massive exaggeration. Scarlett's about to call you. This kid is apparently thinks that we're like an Uber, which I guess basically we are. You told her, right, that we're doing something, that there's no dropping everything that we're doing in order to go get her, right?
I mean,
and I've got more lines out in the water too, trying to catch some more fish. Peter would have done it, lawyer, he's on a cruise. So I've been trying to put together as many big hitters as possible. I didn't know. I did.
We told the people.
Not know. It was Memorial Day weekend. Who's we?
I told them while you were.
I was right. That's not we. That's you told them. I didn't know that. Why was that horrifically redundant? Are you angered by the redundancy of me saying it again?
No, I just figure we can get to the.
Yes, mommy. Okay. Okay, mom. All right. Let me see. I'll pull it up. Pull this guy down. All right. Pull that bad boy back up. All right. We're doing it at 1.25, maybe faster. This guy seems like a 1.5er. Yeah, but here's the thing. When you're on Nancy Grace and you're kind of sucking off that teat a bit in terms of getting on to promote your stuff, sometimes you bow to the knee of the horrific true crime queen. She's just I'll never forget when our friend Joe Lopez, who's affectionately known as the Shark, epic Chicago defense attorney, epic, was part of the family secrets trial, which were all the mobsters back in the day. Joe's one of those guys. And so at any rate, Nancy had him on. And Nancy's that type who I've met in real life, and she's nothing like her character on the show. Nothing. She's like the sweetest little gal you'd ever want to meet. She's she's like Allie size. I could put her in my pocket, carry her around. Just sweet as pie off camera, but on camera, she's a vicious piranha, and she's very pro prosecution. So did you see that when she was just eating Joe's face? I forget what, Joe came on to talk about a case. I'm talking about Joe Lopez.
I know you're talking about Joe
Nancy
Lopez.
Grace. It was hilarious because Joe's not one to take shit. He's a mob lawyer. Joe's Joe will fire back, but Nancy, she just overbears you. You can't get a word in edgewise. She cuts you off. Eventually, if she gets sick of you, you just disappear from the screen. She's special gal. All right, let's go. This is a story. This is literally a story that this bald motherfucker cooked up in his head. Or that ratchet hag sitting behind him. One of the two of them or the both of them thought out this whole story, pretending like they know the details, arguing the case at closing as if they were sitting in the back seat. It's a story. That's all it is. That's all. I always like to start every closing with that was a story, nothing more. They weren't there. They don't know. What's up, Will? Nah, same. Oh, babe,
What?
you didn't tell me I didn't fucking put the video up.
I
Like,
thought
luckily,
we were.
I finally got to Kyle. Kyle.
Wait, how long have you thought it's been up?
Fuck, I don't know. I'm sitting here watching it. I didn't even realize it myself. So, I mean, I'm clearly not upset with you. But you're my backup. You're
I
my
wasn't looking
backup,
at you.
woman. Wow.
I thought you were still looking for it.
God, you know the worst part is I got to fucking restart it. Ugh. What a kerfuckle. What a kerfuckle. Like, you guys were like, what bald motherfucker? Thanks, Kyle. Wait, so is Bob enjoying it? So Bailey hints around. Oh, Kyle, we don't see anything. Oh my God. Like, Allie cracked a whip. I don't know what that's in reference to.
I wasn't looking at any of it.
Bob, did you clean it? Hey, Will. Like, I think Kyle's the first one who said some shit, and we're 6 minutes into it. What's wrong with y'all? What's going on? You guys know I desperately need you. You have to tell me when I'm fucking things up because I'll go hours. There was a live where I didn't hit go live and I had, who was that? Like an hour and a half we were sitting there talking and I'm like, oh my God, dude. Oh my God. He did it too. I think it was Shay, that public defender from Indiana. Nice guy. All right. I apologize. I apologize for wasting your valuable time, kids. Let me remedy this situation right now. Get you right. Wow. God. Okay, we're starting fresh.
We've been here 2 weeks. But this is not the first time that Miss Karen has been in the same room as the man that killed her daughter.
Thanks,
She told
Will.
you when she testified that she had gone to him, to Zach Adams, described the man who led her daughter into the woods.
Good luck with that, Irish four-leaf clover. I'm pretty sure we're the only channel that's rewatching a 2017 trial. But, I mean, go for it.
Took her. And she testified that he said that was shame. From the mouth of Zach Adams. That was shame. April 13th, 2011. Shane Austin
Sure.
took her through the woods. They kept her. They raped her in a barn. And then Jason and Zach took her to the river under a bridge.
All right, so this is that part where I was talking about this guy's just telling a fucking story here. This guy. As if.
You stand in that place under the bridge, and there's water, there's trees, there's rock, there's cars. They whiz by on the I-40 bridge over the Tennessee River. The bridge that we all crossed and crossed and crossed.
Babe, so Tara's picking on me.
As you do it, you can't see down to this place at all. There on the rocks, next to the river and the trees. Stand in that place, you're all alone. All alone. But she wasn't all alone. Wrapped in a blanket, under that bridge, with the cars whizzing past, she was not all alone. Because two men, two bad men, one stood at her feet and one at her head.
Is you high, bitch?
And with a shot echoed under that bridge. With a shot that echoed under that bridge. Those two men did what they chose to do. In secret, what happened to Holly Bobo started, and it was bonded together between these two men who had just done this terrible, terrible work.
I bet you this dude's fondling his balls, like with his hands jammed in his suit pockets, just occasionally like moving his balls around. Look at this guy. I do not like this guy. I didn't like him during the opening.
Like using his sensitive, emotional voice.
Oh yeah,
I
you know
think
this is
fair.
my quiet voice.
Okay.
Holly
It's a horrible
Bobo
thing.
was taken under a bridge
I mean, it is a horrible, horrible thing, obviously, but
by two bad men. It's fucking awful. All these cases we watch are awful. Just because we think that somebody is wrongfully convicted does not mean that the underlying crime was not beyond imagination, like an absolute nightmare. That fact always remains. But in order to get some sense of justice, we have to convict the right motherfucker. If Baldy McBalden Pants here, he ain't doing it.
Come back to the secret. I want to come back to that. But first I want to take a timeout. Because just like y'all, I listened to at least an hour of reading. Legal terms, lesser included offenses,
oh, thanks, buddy.
and things about the law. There was one thing that was read that I found particularly
Okay, here's what's happening. We're skipping past.
guilty. What witness is crime? I mean, I walked into the bank that those people be present at the scene of the crime. Who? And in the early days after that, Zach Adams, Jason Autry.
Explaining the jury instructions.
Oh, but I thought you skipped a little too far to go backwards then.
Okay.
Out there the whole time everybody's honest. Okay? The secret began with a gunshot under the bridge. Because
All right,
never was. I was also in the charge, which is about the very first day, which is also in the charge.
Okay.
Remember, we robbed a couple banks that first day, and we did it together. We did it to demonstrate what's also in the charge, which is criminal responsibility for the conduct of another. I was the only one on the scene of the crime. I mean, I walked into the bank and I did it. But my accomplices, whoever planned it, whoever drove away from it, whoever split the money with us, whatever it was, there's no necessity under the law that those people be present at the scene of the crime. The alibi instruction has to be read in light of criminal responsibility. Okay? That's important in this case. We'll come back to it, but I wanted to go ahead and say it because I don't want that misconception out there the whole time everybody's honest. Okay? The secret began with a gunshot under the bridge that echoed. These two men bonded together because of the terrible hands-on work that they just put in. But not just these two men, these four men. Zach Adams, Jason Autry, Shane Austin, and Dylan Adams. All criminally responsible for each other. All part of this terrible, terrible, terrible thing. Their secret bonded together. But even in the early days after that shot, secret wasn't kept very good. If somebody had been listening, if somebody had just been listening, they'd realize that secret wasn't even kept through the first 2 weeks of this thing. Within 2 days, Holly's papers are found right there by Shane Austin's trailer. Other of her papers found right there in front of Shane Austin's grandmother's house. Within the first days, Zach Adams is seen by Trooper Rainey running frantically, sprinting, and then by the watchers in the woods, vacuuming mattresses and cars for hours after the police talked to him. The fear is that Holly's DNA was on him, and he had transferred it to his mattress or to his car, and he had to get rid of any trace of her. Within the first weeks, a girlfriend that he had lied to and that he had threatened already knew that he had done it. Within the first weeks, he has no alibi at all. Instead, he says he's with Shane and Dylan, the other people who committed the crime. Within the first weeks, Jason Autry tells the lie that I'm working on a farm, but what do you know? Once it's checked, absolutely not. All that within the first weeks of this investigation, if somebody had just been listening. The very day of the abduction, the night after the abduction happened, 911 has to come to his house. You want to know what mental state he's in? He's trying to get guns. He's trying to get a vehicle. He is crazy. Fighting his grandfather, desperate. Within the first weeks, this secret had crack and crack and crack and crack in it. But nobody was listening.
And crack and crack.
Agent Dykes, Investigation 101. Check their alibis. Check their alibis. But he didn't. Investigator Dykes, follow the facts. Instead, he came up with some theory about sexual predators. Follow the facts. Just the facts. Is that Dragnet? Just the facts. But he wouldn't listen. In those first few weeks, this thing could have been done. But he wasn't listening. If he had been listening, he could have gone to the people that hung out with Zach Adams. He could have asked Anthony Phoenix, and he would have heard that Zach said, I couldn't have picked a prettier bitch. It was fun. He could have gone to Jamie Darnell, and he would have heard, he said he can't clear his name. He's in too deep. He could have gone to Carl Statler and heard, he said Shane hit it. He said he did it. Could have gone to Cooper and Kirk, the inmates in the lockup, and he could have heard, tell my brother, Dylan, to shut his mouth, or else I'm going to lay him in a hole beside her. They could have heard him say, you got to kill a bitch to get a $2 million bond. They could have heard him say, they have no body, they have no gun. They could have heard person after person after person that hung out with him and was around him. And this already crack secret could have been done. Finally, the people around Dylan Adams come forward. And when they do, finally, somebody listens. Finally, somebody goes to Dylan Adams. And what do you know? The same names we've been hearing since the second day of the investigation. Zach Adams, Shane Austin, Jason Autry, Dylan Adams. To Dylan's friends and to Dylan, and we got the same people. This secret wasn't even well kept. Not early on and not later. Except by one man, Jason Autry. You see, Jason Autry knew, just as we know, that when he drove up to that trailer and the body shooter was in that blanket and he agreed to help, he was in it for the whole thing. He was in it for the whole thing. He knew that when he agreed to help and took her in that blanket to the river with Zach, that he was just as responsible as Shane Austin, just as responsible as Dylan Adams, just as responsible as Zach Adams for what happened to and what was going to happen to that girl. She was never going to come out of that blanket alive. Not a chance. He knew just how guilty he was, just how guilty they all were. And for years, he kept his secret. Until late 2016, when I think the best way to put it is he just told it. He just told it. Two investigators, just like last week on that stand. Every question.
What happened?
I paused it and I was muted. I just want to remind you all, I am playing this guy at 1.5.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. This guy currently is at 1. How painful would this be at regular speed?
I don't even know how it'd be possible.
Like, I had to double check. I'm like, wait, look, it's right there. Can y'all see it, or is it behind the shit? Of course, it's behind the. I do love. Trust me. It's 1.25. No, 1.5.
He just told it. Trip to the river. He just told it. Taking the body in the blanket, her in the blanket, out of the bed of that truck and laying it down on the rocks. He just.
This motherfucker just making shit up. This is a story. This is made up out of whole cloth. As if he was a little bird on the killer's shoulders, chirping away. I have a terrible, terrible animal story. Terrible animal story.
No, stop. Let's keep
What?
playing.
It's terrible.
You saw it
story.
wrong. You saw it wrong.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you did. Don't
Fucking
scare
horrible.
the people.
It was one of the most
Don't scare the
horrific
people.
things I've ever seen.
Don't scare the people.
It's terrible. And it was from our love bug, the guy. Nookie Boo.
No, Bob. Well, you can't do that.
What he himself called her. The fucking bitch is still alive. He just told it. When the shot rang out, when Zach killed her, while he was not trying to help her, looking out to make sure the coast was clear, he just told it. For a whole day, question after question after question, he just told it. The early cracks in the secret. All the people around Zach. Dylan Adams and his friends. And now the man who was under that bridge with his hands on the blanket that she was in and still alive, he came in here and he just told it. But even more than that, his account is corroborated and corroborated and corroborated. What did he tell us Shane was doing when he pulled up? Y'all got to get out of here. I got a cable guy coming sometime. Well, what do you know? He had a cable guy coming that day. Corroboration. What did he say Zach said about the rape? Other than the crude part that Zach said about Dylan during the rape. But what did he say Zach said about the rape? He said we had to end early because somebody started cutting their grass. We had to get out of there because somebody started cutting their grass. Well, what do you know? Brian Vick, the neighbor to Shane's grandmother, where that barn is, the neighbor. What was he doing that morning? Cutting his grass. Cutting his grass. Jason tells us later that afternoon, we go to Victor Dinsmore's, well, not his house, he's working at Miss Dottie's house. He says there's a scuffle or a fight. Something about hitting it. And what do you know? Victor Dinsmore describes the same thing that afternoon. But not just that. The particularly interesting part of that is Jason says, Victor was there, but some unidentified, that was his word, unidentified female was there. What do you know? Debbie Doris, the cleaning woman. And what'd she see? Men.
Wait a second. Sleuthy, have you not been in here for one of the 17 parts that we've done of this trial before this? I've seen you in here.
How do you remember which lives you've
I
seen?
always remember when the goose is in the house.
I'm hoping this is not like a correspond. Oh, no, we don't do that for trials. Okay.
But she does have a lot of shit going on. Her mind goes in a lot of different ways. So I give her a lot of grace because she's our girl,
Well, I would hope so.
Well, yeah, of course.
Including who? Jason.
Judge Your Honor, it's hard to make that sound good.
Jump to the jury what the facts are.
That fucking judge. What a fucking pig man just sitting up there. All he needs is like a big bowl of gruel in front of him. Touchdown! Fucking guy watching football during a fucking murder trial. And I love football. I love it. Am I going to watch it during a fucking murder trial that I'm proceeding over? Not a chance.
All right, let's hear it.
What? What, girl?
Get back to the body.
I'm not getting back to the body. I'll get back to your body. Whoa. Oh, shit.
God.
Oh, my God.
No, she saw a man. Including who? Jason. Cooperated. Jason tells us how, because he was dropped off at the church. He was dropped off at the church after they came back from the bridge. When the body was disposed of, he wasn't there. He told us he doesn't know where it was, except that Zach had told him near Kelly's Ridge. So he told us he went out there looking for it one day after this. He said he went up to a house pretending like he was asking to fish, but the people wouldn't let him.
What does that mean?
What do you know? Within 2 weeks of this crime, Miss Brenda O'Brien calls in, and it's documented. Strange man in a PT Cruiser just came to my house asking if he could fish, and he was acting strange, and I told him no, and he kept on asking, and I told him no. Well, what do you know? That's exactly what Jason had said. Cooperated and cooperated and cooperated. But even that, there's more. Because what did Jason say in late 2016? Shane Austin and me sold the gun. The gun. No body, no gun. Sold the gun to Victor Dinsmore. Go to Victor Dinsmore.
Making shit up.
Over by Joe Holiday Road. Small little street. Years and years and years ago. They sold it to me sometime after Holly was killed. And that's where I got rid of it, me and my wife. And what do you know? Here we go. Right there. The man and his wife that Jason and Shane sold it to years and years ago. He has cooperated and cooperated and cooperated. Early cracks. Zach's friends and all the things he said. The friends of Dylan Adams and Dylan Adams. Jason Autry just told it, and he was cooperating and cooperating and cooperating. But even then, there's more. 2 confessions, admissions, while he was in jail to 2 entirely different people. Christopher Swift, who doesn't, is he lying on Zach? Is Christopher Swift lying on Zach? He told us he doesn't even want to believe that Zach is capable of doing this. But nevertheless, he tells you what Zach said. I was there for the worst part of it. I was there for the worst part of it. One of us killed themselves. I was there for the worst part of it. Talking about Holly. And explained later that one of us, Shane Austin, killed himself. Corey Rivers, entirely different person. who sat up straight, bright-eyed, and told us and answered every question about his past, his horrific childhood, what happened to him, what happened to his mother, and also told us what Zach told him, that he wanted forgiveness for what he had done, that when she was taken into the woods, Holly Bobo was taken into the woods. She was killed, that her body was chopped up. There are the cracks. All the statements Zach made to his friends, Dylan Adams, Jason Autry, all the corroboration, and now 2 confessions to 2 entirely different people. So why'd I have to hear so much in this trial about other things? About all the other people that were investigated and excluded? Why'd I have to hear about,
If you're
Atheist, I think the best way to do that, frankly, is the way that we're going to do it. So what we're going to cover after this, and we covered the last 2 days because they were done piecemeal, and I'm talking about the post-conviction evidentiary hearing. They did it, I think, on 4 separate dates, all broken up months apart. But we're going to watch that whole thing. So in terms of what the real story is, I think that that's where the real story can be heard, or at least a corrected version of the facts that were presented in this particular trial, where we can see that. That's the best way to do it. It's way too much to kind of recap it. It really is. But that's a pretty thorough way to go through it. There's a lot of evidence that was put on, a lot of witnesses. It's pretty compelling. It's pretty compelling. So I think that's the best way to do it. And thank you for the dono. We appreciate it.
pick a name, Jonathan Dodd, Jason Nichols, whoever it was? Why'd I have to hear about all those people that were investigated and excluded? Why'd I even have to hear about Terry Britt, who Agent Dykes, the one who had tunnel vision?
Corroborate. I know how to pronounce it. Can you say corroborate?
Who, me?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of stupid question is that?
Do you say corroborate?
Corroborate.
A lot of lawyers do say corroborate. It was corroborated. Like
corroborated.
Yeah. A lot of people do. Like almost all non-lawyers mispronounce it.
I'm not talking smack.
What?
I hear lots of regular everyday people say it right, so no.
That's true. It's kind of like it's probably about the same amount of people that misuse moot, which just fucking makes my skin crawl.
That was an old thing.
Man, I'm still around like people in real life, and they're like, "Oh, that's a mute point," and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, "Oh my god," I'm like, "Oh my god," in my head. I'm like, "Do I say something? Do I pants this person right here?" They're so passionate about what they're saying, yet they don't know that they're using the wrong word.
The one who had to be removed because of his unobjectivity and his tunnel vision. But even him, when I asked, after all those searches, after ripping into this man's life, he's not a good man. Good for them for ripping into his life. Good for them. He's in prison. That's fabulous. But after ripping into his life, after all that, Agent Dykes, what did you find that connected him to this crime? And his answer was what? Absolutely nothing. Not a drop of blood, not a hair, not anything at all that connected him to Holly Bobo.
Funny.
No evidence. No evidence. So why are we even talking about him? And then I had to listen to Johnny Walker, that marshal, cell phone expert. No. An investigator who understands that when you talk to somebody, there's certain things you got to do. No. An investigator that understands that you need to write a report that actually records what happened when you talk to somebody. No. An investigator who remembers that if you're going to testify, you need to probably remember what happened that's in your 20-line little report. No. An investigator that understands when he's being messed with. Terry Britt's not a brain surgeon. But Johnny Walker didn't even understand he was being messed with. Well, it sounds like you got it all figured out. That's from the words of the man that calls law enforcement what? Whores. Well, it sounds like you got it all figured out.
Whores.
He came in here to say that? Johnny Walker came in here to say that? Why don't, Mr. Walker, you look at the evidence? Why don't you look at the evidence? Were you aware, Mr. Walker, that as we sit here right now, we've heard 7, 8, 9 people say what Zach Adams said about killing her. Mr. Walker, as you sit here right now, do you know we've heard 2 different people, entirely different people, testify about how he confessed to them? Mr. Walker, as we sit here right now, do you know they went to Dylan Adams' friends? Do you know they went to Dylan? Do you know Jason just sat in this courtroom for a whole day and just told it? Did you know that his entire story corroborated? Yet we had to listen to it. Don't tell me about that. Don't tell me about that. Don't tell me about the 4 times in 3 years that Terry Britt searched bad porn. Don't tell me about that. Tell me about the facts and the evidence in this case. We spent way too much time on speculation that had already been shot down, on suspects that had already been shot down. And we even heard Agent Dykes himself admit from his suspect, Terry Britt, that we found, quote, absolutely nothing. Two things. The math. The math in this case is actually pretty simple. The only question in this case is, do you have the right people? Because everyone agrees. She was taken, she was kidnapped, and that kidnap started when she was taken, and it continued all the time until she was killed. That she was taken, that she was kidnapped, that she was raped, and that she was murdered. You just listened for an hour about lesser included offenses or something like that. I heard crazy stuff, like negligent homicide or like sexual battery. I heard crazy stuff. And the only things at issue in this trial are not whether or not she was murdered because she was, not whether or not she was murdered in the perpetration of a felony because she was, not whether or not she was kidnapped because she was, not whether or not she was raped because she was. The only question is, do we have the right people? And the math on that is pretty simple. 4 people. Zach Adams, Jason Autry, Dylan Adams, Shane Austin. 4 people. 1 killed himself. The one at the coon hunt. The one looking at him. The one with the hidey holes behind his house. The one with the paper 75 yards from his front yard. The one with the heat coming down on him. 1 killed himself. Dylan Adams. They went to his friends. They went to him. And what do you know after they did? Got the right people. Jason Autry. He just sat in here and told it. You got the right people. Zach Adams, Karen Bobo, face to face with him, in the same room. The man that took her into the woods. And he said, that was Shane. That was Shane. He didn't say, I don't know who that was. He didn't say, oh, that was, pick a name that we heard. Doesn't matter. James Barnes. He didn't say, it was Terry Britt. He didn't say, I got no idea. He said, that was Shane Austin. 4 people. 4 people. Do we got the right people? We can go one by one. And the second thing. In any case, there's details that matter, and then details that don't. We talked about that the first day. What color shirt people were wearing, or exactly what time something happened. We talked about it. Any case has all sorts of details. But some details can be real important. It was just 2 more witnesses. There was so many witnesses that got on the stand, but it was just like the others, 2 more witnesses. And you may not have caught how important what they said was. Cooper was the inmate who was sitting in the Chester County lockup. He was the one who was going to be transferred to O'Brien County. Kirk was the inmate who was sitting further, waiting to come to court. That's Cooper, and that's Kirk. Cooper described how Zach Adams came into that lockup, asked him if he would be able to talk to the federal prisoners in O'Brien County. He said, yeah, maybe through the door. Zach says, we'll get a message to my brother. Tell him to stop talking, or else I'll lay him in a hole next to Holly Bobo. Kirk hears the same thing. Here's Zach talking to Cooper. But you know what else they both hear? They told you? They both heard Zach say, because remember, Cooper didn't want him saying this to him. He said, I got angry with him, and maybe even I threatened to slap him if he didn't stop talking. But he didn't stop talking. He said, not worried or something to that effect, because they got no body and they got no gun. Remember that? Not just from Cooper, but from Kirk. They got no body and they got no gun. Well, when did that happen? When did that conversation happen? They testified it happened on March the 4th. March the 4th of 2014. March the 4th of 2014. March the 4th of 2014. When was her body found? When was her body found? September of 2014. So his first statement makes sense. They got no body because in March of 2014, they didn't have a body. But what else did he say? They got no gun. Who on earth, on this planet, who on earth knew on September, in March, before September, who on this planet knew in March of 2014 that she had been?
Everyone from that area that was following the case.
I mean, seriously.
Everyone. Is this guy fucking kidding me? It would be the opening headline story of every newscast in fucking Tennessee if they found Holly Bobo's body that night. Whatever day it happens, it's the lead story. If they find a weapon that they can somehow connect to Holly Bobo, they're fucking letting the public know. Is he kidding? What person in this world could possibly know that unless they had committed the crime themselves? This fucking guy. Look at that. Look at that guy. I'm going to remind you, this is at 1.5. Think how insufferable this would be at regular speed.
Shot. Who knew it? Her body hadn't been found. This didn't exist yet. This was still in the woods. The hole in the back of her head is a bullet hole that's consistent with the 32 that I got laying on that table. Didn't exist yet. Nobody in this world knew if she was strangled, if she was stabbed, if she was run over, and certainly not shot. Nobody in this world knew except the two men who were there when it happened. You want to talk about a confession? In March, before the body's even found, while everybody in this world has no idea what happened to Holly Bobo and how she died, he's talking about a gun. He's talking about a gun 4 months before we even know that she has been shot and has a bullet hole to the back of her head. Under that bridge, you're all alone. You're all alone. The cars whiz by, they can't see that. Under that bridge, she wasn't alone though, because she had two men, and they had a gun, and they killed her. Only two men in the world knew that. The two men that did it, Zach and Jason. And Zach's talk in March, before that body's found, tells you everything you need to know. He spent time in this trial, almost like a time machine, going back to 2013, and the status of the investigation, for whatever reason, 2013. But this isn't 2013. This is 2017. And now, 6 years later, and 2 weeks in this room, with the man that killed her daughter, it's time to do what is right. It's time to listen to the evidence, to make decisions on the evidence, what matters. Time's now. Time is now. Shane took her, just like Zach said. Was Dylan with him? Was Zach with him too? And after Shane took her, they all raped her. They all still had her kidnapped. Zach and Jason drove her to the river where they killed her. Then they drove real fast back, dropping Jason off at the church. Just like the defense's own cell phone expert said, the phones are consistent with Shane Austin taking it, or going to Yellow Springs where that bar is and being raped. And then Jason and Zach going to the river. Dylan getting rid of her phone and her property. Killing her. And coming back real fast. Dropping Jason off out of all things, church. Just how this thing to end.
Zachary.
Yeah, sure, pal. Cool story, bro.
Right.
Cool story.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. So that guy's over. We'll see
I mean,
how.
let's get some feedback from the people. What they
What do you guys think?
overall.
All right, now we're over here all, chirping. We've obviously, at least some of us have watched the post-conviction stuff. If you listen to that from beginning to end, and if you haven't watched the trial, I mean, I can see how a jury convicts him. Because they weren't taught any better through the trial. They weren't. This is where Jennifer Thompson just shit the bed. So we're about to start Jennifer Thompson's closing. I'm going to try her at 1.5. We'll see. She's also pretty slow talking, but she might be a little much at 1.5. But so here, this is Zach's last chance through his conduit, his attorney, to argue for his innocence, which, we don't have to do, but we know that we really do have to do it because everybody on that jury is convicting this dude. As it stands right now, he's convicted based on what they've seen and heard. And so, that closing, oh yeah, he's the guy. So we'll see if she can mitigate anything here.
Adams is 100% innocent of the charges he is facing in this case. And the important thing for you to remember today is that non-evidence is not evidence in this case. Think of all the, quote, non-evidence that the government...
Hey, Amanda, you have to type it. It's not like I can actually hear you. So go ahead and type your opinions, and I'll throw them on the screen. Babe, Amanda's picking on me.
has put in their case. They put in the evidence of a white truck through Christy Clinty and John Babb. But that, in fact, was not evidence that Mr. Adams committed the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Holly Bobo. It's not related to the crimes he's charged with. Think about the shoe print in the carport that the government put in regarding the, quote, evidence in this case. That's not evidence that points to Mr. Adams being involved in this crime. Think about the pink underwear that was found at the side of the road. The government went to all the trouble of putting that underwear in the case. Turns out that, in fact, was not Holly Bobo's underwear. The man mowing the lawn, that's not evidence in this case that points to a crime. The mattress at Zach's house, Zach vacuuming his truck, the camouflage clothing, the scratches on Zach, and the nervousness. All of that is non-evidence in this case. But yet the government went to the trouble of putting it in. The white truck, the white pickup truck. The government showed that the truck was traveling south while Holly's cell phone is traveling north. That, again, is not evidence in this case, but it makes it sound suspicious. It's just a way to get people's suspicion in this case, get their suspicion riled up and thinking about, well, it's possible. I mean, what is possible here? The cases in criminal defense or criminal law are not made on what is possible. It's what does the evidence show beyond a reasonable doubt. What about the shoe print in the carport? Again, the government knew that the shoe print was made by Clint Bobo's shoes. They knew that, but yet they put in the shoe print to try to show something suspicious. Remember, it's the defense that put in the fact that that shoe print was made by, or quite possibly made by, Clint Bobo's croc that he was wearing that day when Holly Bobo disappeared. It's the defense that actually put in law enforcement to come in and say, no, that shoe print was made by, that shoe print was consistent with the shoes that Clint Bobo was wearing that day. What about the palm print on Holly's Mustang? The government went through a lot of trouble to try to put in this palm print when it's the defense that brought in the fact that all four people that the government has spent their whole first part of their argument arguing were involved. Dylan Adams, Zachary Adams, Jason Autry, and Shane Austin were all four excluded as being the person who owned that palm print, that pan print on Holly Bobo's car. And yet you heard one of the law enforcement involved in the case say that Terry Britt was never excluded as being the owner of that palm print. Why not? Why didn't they go to that trouble and get his prints and try to exclude him on that? Think about the pink underwear. They put in the pink.
All right. Remember, I'm playing her at 1.52. Is she too much at
Yeah, maybe
1.25?
put her down to 1.25.
I can understand her. She's just doing it quickly. Let's see, because her closing's much longer. She goes like an hour, almost 2 hours. But let's see. This will be more palatable, I think.
Underwear. It's the defense that actually put the evidence in, that questioned Brent Booth and brought it to your attention that, in fact, that pink underwear did not belong to Holly. But yet it's found outside Shane's trailer there by his driveway, and the government wants to put that in just to add the creep factor there. The government is really trying to pump the creep factor in this case. The man mowing the yard, that Brian Vitt was there mowing the yard. The government puts that in as though it corroborates Jason Autry's story.
Oh.
But in fact, what Mr. Vitt specifically said was he didn't notice anything unusual that day, and he was outside mowing his grass while this alleged crime was occurring down the street. The mattress at Zach's house. The government knew that mattress belonged to Rebecca Earp. Rebecca Earp testified that, yes, she had a mattress there at Zach's house, and that was during the time that they were in the process of breaking up. That mattress is outside. The government knows that mattress has nothing to do with it. Besides, the government's story was that none of this crime occurred at Zachary Adams' house. And yet they bring in that mattress and the vacuuming of the mattress and just to make it look suspicious. The same with that truck, the vacuuming of the black truck and the camouflage clothing. All of that was done in order just to have some kind of evidence in, because the government knows that juries expect evidence. So the government has gone to all this trouble to put some kind of evidence in, so you have something to take back with you, something to look at as being possible evidence of Mr. Adams' connection to this crime. But when in fact, all those different pieces of evidence that they put in are not evidence. Next, you have the scratches and the nervousness. Again, the government had reason to believe that these were not connected to Zach Adams being involved in the case, but yet they put it in so they have some kind of evidence. So here's what the government's story is that we have. We have Candace Woods, who says that she sees Shane staring at her and Holly at the coon hunt in a creepy way. Then you have Clint Bobo. Clint Bobo describes somebody who has dark hair. It's down his neck to his collar. He's 5'10", 5'11", 200 pounds, looks like his cousin Richie Pratt. We have John Babb, who says he sees a white truck headed south going at a high rate of speed down the road. And then you have a fact gap, because now the government isn't able to explain what happens in between. They have a fact gap, and thank goodness Jason Autry comes along. So in the government's case, here's what happens. Jason then steps up and says that Dylan gives Zach oral sex, and then Zach is able to rape Holly Bobo, but Zach describes it when he's talking to Jason Autry as a brief encounter. Jason shows up at Shane's house. That's when Jason gets involved. There's a body in the back of Zach's truck. Jason gets high. They drive to the river. Jason didn't do anything wrong, according to Jason's story. He just grabs Holly. He watches Zach grab a gun and shoot Holly with a gun that he recognizes being Shane's gun. They just pick up the body, put it back in the truck. Jason gets driven back to the Yellow Springs Methodist Church. He's dropped off there, and then that's ends of Jason's involvement. So that's the government story. Government then says several hours later, Jason shows back up at Zach's house. He's looking for a pill. Jason, Shane, Zach, and Dylan go over to Dottie's to see Victor. Jason says to Zach, "You don't have to kill her." Jason claims that Shane says to Zach, "You didn't have to kill her." Zach says to Shane, "You're just as guilty. You hit it." Zach punches Shane. This is all just part of the government's story. Again, none of this directly relates to evidence that shows that Zach Adams was involved in the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Holly Bobo. These are things that Jason's claiming is said later. 2 days later, Jason meets with Zach and Dylan at the gas station. Zach tells Jason he threw Holly's body near Kelly's Ridge. Zach tries to make a deal with Jason to have Dylan killed. Jason accepts the deal. Jason takes Dylan to the river, but this whole plan gets spoiled by a random boater. Sometime later, Jason says he sees buzzards at Kelly Ridge. He asks the homeowner to fish in the pond. And then while stealing deer equipment, Zach tells Jason, "Looks like we got by with this shit." And Zach tells Jason the real reason they were there was to show Clint how to make meth. Holly saw us, raised hell, and that's why we took her. So that's the government story. It's complete with its own little motive there, as the motive being to cook meth with Clint Bobo. The government also has Dr. Mark Ross that comes in. He says that the cause of death is a gunshot wound to the back of the head. The range of fire is indeterminate. The size of the hole is 9 millimeters by 11 millimeters, 32 caliber bullet. is 32 inches in diameter, and anything that's 0.3, not 32 inches, 0.32 inches in diameter. Anything that's 0.36 inches or smaller could have made the hole. The government pulls in Victor Dinsmore, who comes in. He argues. He says that he hears Shane and Zach arguing that they're going to about who's going to hit it first. Victor trades morphine for Shane's gun at a later point. Victor gives the gun to his wife later. Victor tells his wife to get rid of the gun. The wife throws the gun in a creek. The gun is retrieved 6 years later. They have Steve Deaton come in. He's the water rescue man. He says that after 6 years, the gun is found laying under 15 inches of water, sitting on top of a drainage feature. And Mike Frizzell is the government's cell phone expert. He comes in and says that Holly's phone traveled north, and because of the locate and call records, it puts Holly and Zach in the same general area. The end. That is the end of the government story. Well, now it's time to listen to the rest of the story, because when you dig down deep into what the government says and what the facts really are, you'll see that their story is absolutely full of holes. What they're wanting you to do is to ignore all the many mysteries and the holes that they have left in their story, and to just completely then buy into their theory that what the government cannot explain, that's what Dylan and Shane did. That's going to be the way of this case. So the rest of the story is what we have is Candace Wood. She says that she sees a man staring at Holly and her at the coon hunt, and then he's standing there scooting dirt. So what she notices, and she says he really creeped her out, that it's a guy who's talking on the cell phone. She says he's standing there the whole time talking on the cell phone, scooting dirt with his foot, and he keeps looking at her and Holly. And what she also says is that he's standing still in one location, which is what you would expect if somebody's talking on the phone. She said part of what made her suspicious about him was that he just kept standing there and he didn't move anywhere and was watching them. And she said it was for 10 or 15 minutes. Well, that's what you would expect if somebody's on the phone. And I'm certain that there were two very attractive women there at the coon hunt. Maybe the guy was a creep. Maybe he just happened to be on the phone and noticing two women, but she says that she felt threatened by it. And of course now, years later, knowing that Holly disappeared a few days later, she has feelings of what if she told. But clearly at the time, what she saw did not upset her so much that she even would mention it to her boyfriend. At the time, she didn't even say, hey, boyfriend, Justin, do you see that guy over there staring at me? He's bothering me. So what she sees at the time isn't enough to really bother her. It's only when it comes up days later and Holly has disappeared that she starts to think about it and as she thinks about it and as she stews about it, to her mind grows worse and worse, but all she describes is a person talking on the phone scooting dirt. The other thing is, so she draws this sketch of this person, and then she's shown a picture after she does the sketch of Shane Austin, and she says yes, and she identifies the person at that time as being Shane Austin. But she leaves out some very important features of Shane Austin at the time. The first feature is that Shane Austin has a very big, noticeable scar on his face. His mother even testified about it. He'd been in a motorcycle accident. He wasn't wearing a helmet. He hit a tree. He was life flighted to Vanderbilt. And he has a deep scar between his nose and his mouth, and it goes across his cheek. The other thing is Shane's whole right eye socket was decimated. It was flattened, and they had to have multiple surgeries where they were rebuilding his eye socket, and it left his eye droopy, which means the white of his eye, when you looked at him, the white of his eye was showing underneath the iris of his eye. That's something that's very unusual about people. And people would absolutely notice that. If you're looking at somebody, I can see even the people that have on glasses. I can still see the whites of their eyes, and I can see the iris of their eyes, even if you have on glasses. So she's looking at somebody, and he has a distinct deformity of his eye where the eye socket and the nose bridge has all been broken, and it's not seating the eye properly anymore. That's something that you would notice. The other third thing that she doesn't mention is Shane's goatee. Shane wore a goatee because he was self-conscious of his scar, and he wore a goatee to try to help diminish the look of the scar, even though the scar was further out on the cheek and it didn't diminish the whole thing. But Shane had a goatee at the time. Facial hair would definitely be something that you would mention. So she draws the picture first. She leaves out the three very important distinguishing features of Shane Austin in this picture. And then later when she's shown a photo, she said, well, yeah, that's the person. But it doesn't quite fit. Even if you all were to say, well, I do think that that's Shane Austin there, there's no other evidence that Shane knew anything else about Holly Bobo, that he knew where she lived or who she was, or that he did anything more than that day. His mother clearly testified that he did not have a car, that his truck that he had that was parked behind his trailer had been wrecked, and it barely drove, and it drove sideways, and they took the keys. She specifically said they took the keys. Shane didn't have a key to her house, and they had locked the keys away. So Shane, first of all, had no opportunity. He had no transportation that he himself would have followed Holly home or known anything at all about Holly and where she lived. So even if you all were to decide, well, it's possible that it was Shane at that coon hunt that was looking at them that day, there's nothing that he did that showed that he would have been dangerous, and certainly nothing that then ties that into any type of kidnapping or rape. Then we hear Clint Bobo's description of the person that took Holly. He says that person had black hair down to his collar, down his neck to his collar, so it's long black hair. He is 5'10" to 5'11", weighs 200 pounds, and looks like Cousin Richie Pratt. And then we also heard John Walker, who's the marshal, talk about Clint's description that the man was barrel-chested, had skinny legs, was dressed in camouflage shirt with a ball cap. And when you look at the pictures, first of all, if you look at these four men in this case, definitely Zach and Dylan are thinner than 200 pounds. Shane, who might have the physical height and weight, did not have barrel-chested. He did not look like he used to work out and didn't work out anymore. He was not barrel-chested and didn't fit the description of having skinny legs. Plus, Shane had short hair. He had short hair, and it was reddish blonde hair. It was not dark. It was black or dark brown hair, and it wasn't long down to his collar. The person that took Holly that day thought that Holly was alone. The person that took Holly on April the 13th didn't bother wearing a disguise because that person had been watching Holly's house. That person was confident that Holly was going to be alone that day. That's why you would bend down in front of on the carport for a few minutes talking. If you really thought that somebody was in that house and dialing 911, you would absolutely not have paused there for several minutes, maybe as many as 10 minutes, while you're bent down on the carport talking to her, and you would be getting out of there. Also, so that person that came that day dressed that way was not wearing a disguise. That's how they looked because they thought no one was going to be at home and they would never be identified by anybody. And then Clint Bobo also identifies Terry Britt's voice that day as being 80% sure that the voice he heard when he heard Terry Britt's voice was the same voice that was outside on the carport that morning with his sister. You all heard Zach Adams when he got up to say he was not guilty. He's the one in this case that said he was not guilty. He had a high voice in that case. He does not have that low, husky smoker's voice. You all heard Terry Britt testify in front of you. You know that's a very distinct voice that he had, and it's low. Then, as part of the rest of the story, we have John Babb. So John Babb says he sees a white truck headed south that morning, and it's a full-size pickup truck. Christy Plenty also says she sees a white truck a couple weeks earlier, or a week or two earlier, but that it was also a full-size white pickup truck. Well, first of all, this Nissan truck that Jason Autry is trying to put Zach Adams with on the day that Holly disappeared, it's a mid-size truck. It's not a full-size truck. And John Babb says also that that truck is heading south on the road that morning, whereas Holly's phone is going north, and he hears that truck approximately around 7:30 that morning. And so what you did hear from Ed James Barnes, when he's testifying, he says that he's there at his truck. He hears the scream that just kind of stops him in place. He's then very concerned about the scream. He walks over to the fence. He doesn't hear anything anymore. He comes back to his truck. His wife comes out. He yells at her, "Get in the truck." And remember, he's facing the end of the driveway. So from the time he hears the scream, he's watching to see what cars are going by. He's facing the end of the driveway. They get in the car. They drive straight to Holly's house. They park there in the driveway at Holly's house. No cars come by because he's testified to that. And he's watching for cars. He has heard a scream that changed his morning. He now is driving a different way to work because of the scream. He's looking for cars. He's aware of what's going on. So that white pickup truck did not pass him. That means that white pickup truck came by before Holly came by. It's not evidence. It's non-evidence in this case. So let's talk about Jason Autry. Jason Autry has sold his death penalty to the government. That's what's happened in this case. Jason Autry has a death penalty.
All right, so here you're going to get what Autry's deal was, because I know Law and Disorder was asking. In this type of case, this is where you'd really like to see, and I know I saw something up on the screen, but like in a case like this, and again, I get that this is 2017, almost 10 years ago. The technology is not what it is today. But this is where you'd want to see some heavy-duty demonstratives. Like where you're literally saying, okay, this is a fact the state presented to you as if it was inculpatory. This is the reality of it, you know, and have them side by side. Because you need to, because like she's just puking so much shit out that nobody is retaining any of it. You know what I mean? I mean, you really need, it's like when they used the graphic in Karen Reed Part 2 with the Post-it note thingy they did with reasonable doubt. Remember?
Yeah.
Are you listening to
No,
it,
the
Dan,
Post-it
more than
note
I'm
thing was,
saying?
was
She
the
wasn't
Post-it-
listening to shit I was saying.
The
What are
Post-
you reading, by the
the
way?
Post-it note thing was very effective. Like
What are
very
you
effective.
reading now? Just tell me. Tell me. What are you doing?
I was just looking over the state's motion to strike on one of my petitions. So
Oh, you didn't answer that yet? I thought that was going to be a quick, like, boop, boop.
it was, but I didn't do it yet.
Wow. Okay.
Just like Dylan Adams and Zachary Adams have in this case. And of all the three men, Jason's the one who sold his death penalty to the government. And he sold it to them, and the only price he had to pay was this tall tale that he came up with in January. Because you heard Jason testify that it was around January 20th, January 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th, when he came in and had a 3-day proffer with the government in this case. And so he has attorneys. He has 2 attorneys, and he pointed them out in the courtroom. He has 2 attorneys that were sitting here. And so, you know, in a death penalty case, if you have 2 qualified death penalty attorneys in your case, those attorneys, you know, Jason says, well, he just expects to, he doesn't know what he's going to get, and he just expects to get something in return, but he doesn't know what it's going to be. But you know good and well, if you've got 2 qualified death penalty attorneys, those death penalty attorneys are not going to let you go in and just talk up a storm and put yourself in the middle of something unless they know that you're going to at least get death off the table. And a death penalty, I'm sure that all of you members of the jury can imagine, the death penalty changes everything. When somebody is sitting there facing the death penalty and they know what that is, they have incredible pressure on them to have something change, to get that death penalty off the table. And so Jason Autry was able to sell his death penalty to the government for a tall tale. And he didn't do it until January. And what that means is he's arrested in the spring of 2014 on this crime. And he had years and years. He had 3 years to sit from 2014 until January of 2017 to sit and perfect his story so that he could finally sell it to the government. So let's talk about Jason Autry and some of what he did. And as you can see, Jason Autry has kind of come across, sitting up here on the witness stand as we looked at him, he comes across as, oh, shucks, I'm just a good old boy, just trying to do the right
Fuck.
thing. And I was lying when I said I was innocent, and now I've come to you and told the truth. But Jason Autry is no shrinking violet. If you watched him closely and how he handled this whole thing, he absolutely was in control of the courtroom. I mean, he's the one, he just looked over at the judge and said, Judge, may I approach, when he was looking at the maps that the government had for him to look at, and when I was trying to show him, when we went through that whole long extracted map, mapping out on the map where he went that day, he absolutely was in control of that. He is a controlling person, which is going to be important in this story. But Jason Autry doesn't let other people boss him around. He absolutely took charge from the witness stand, was in command of things. And so the fact that Jason Autry is controlling and tries to be the master of things is going to be important when we continue to talk about his story and what kind of story he came up with that day. So another thing to remember just about the white truck while we're still here, remember John Dodd had a white truck, and there were several people that said they saw John Dodd in that area that morning. And the thing about Jason Autry's story is he was able to combine it with a little truth, because the best lies that people tell, anytime somebody tells a really good lie, it has some elements of truth in it, some elements that you can confirm with other people. And that's what Jason Autry has done here. So first thing he says is that Zach raped Holly as a brief encounter after Dylan gave him oral sex. And this is an absolutely incredible allegation. One of the things Jason has done is, as he's told his story about Zach Adams, who at one time was a friend of his, they were drug buddies. They were drug buddies into doing drugs together. And one of the things he does is he's able to weave so many little pieces in there just to make Zach sound like a bad person. And so one of the first little facts that Jason weaves into his incredible story from what happened that day is that he's talking to Zach and says, well, how is it that you're able to rape her? And he gives the...
Oh, yeah, and she's got an hour and 24 minutes to go in this closing. If you think she said too much already, we're just getting warmed up, kids. Settle in, get your popcorn, because we're going to be going for quite a while.
He claims that Zach replies, well, that his brother had to suck him off so that he could get hard and rape Holly Bobo. And he adds that one just to make a dig at Zach Adams, to hurt someone that was an old friend, and also just to add a touch of homosexuality and incest and just really complete the picture that Zach's...
A touch of gay. Touch of gay. Wait, Velma, I thought Velma had dark hair, like a bob cut and glasses. Wasn't that Velma? Or was Velma the redhead, the taller redhead?
I think Velma's the taller is the redhead.
Oh, okay.
I think, I could be wrong.
I retract my statement.
A bad person, because it's ridiculous to think that in the middle of this rape, if Jason wants the jury to believe that Zach, Dylan, and Shane all raped Holly Bobo, that then there's also a brief session of incest between Dylan and Zach in order to sexually arouse Zach to rape Holly Bobo.
I did it. Daphne was the redhead. Velma was the little, like the shorter brunette with the bob, the real severe bangs and the glasses. She was the smart one. Velma was the brains of the operation. Thank you.
That's just a silly extra that didn't need to be added, but he added it to make Zach sound bad. The other thing he says is, the thing to keep in mind also is that when Jason is developing his story, he has access to the discovery, and that's the evidence in the case. When you think about the things that the defense put in to evidence in this case, first of all, we put in phone records, and phone records that have the locations with them. You all can go back there.
This is a good point, and I want to talk about a little with you, babe. Can you break from your work? So DB says that she really shouldn't even are you listening at all to this testimony?
DB says she really shouldn't.
I don't need you to read the comment. I'm asking,
Oh.
were you listening to what she was arguing?
A little bit.
So essentially she was kind of going in to challenge the state's assertion of just all this shit they were claiming that Zach and his brother were like, sexual shit. Like all these kind of weird little things that the state threw in there to dirty Zach up as like a kind of like creep weirdo guy. And what's your feeling on that? So DB says, she shouldn't even have gone there because it's giving credence to what he said. I tend to agree with him. Like, I don't want to give that fire any air.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
would you have said that's not even worth discussing? Would you have thrown it in there just for that?
Yeah, maybe generally just like, and all the things that he got into about Zach's sexuality, whether it be with whoever, I'm not going to even address it because it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like just something like that, but getting into like point by point.
Right. No,
I think it does. I agree.
He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
In the jury room and you're deliberating, and you can look at those phone records and you all can see that the locations are there. And you don't have to know exactly where that location is that day. If you look at Jason's phone records, it just has a location and it has a number. So if you can just match Jason's number with Zach's number, they're at the same location. And then you just mix it with a little bit of truth, because if you can remember from that day, a little bit of what you did that day, if you remember, we were over there by the river area. We were over there at that bar. We were over there at the river area that day. If you remember a little bit of the truth there, then you've got some kind of story to tell. And then everybody else says,
no, I put her down to 1.25.
You're sure, right?
Put that one down to 1.25.
well,
Babe, DB's picking on me.
No, he's not.
it's true. I mean, everything else must be true because they were there together and their phones were there together.
Yeah.
Well, remember, Jason Autry had access to all the evidence in the case, the same access to evidence that Zach Adams and his attorneys had. The other thing that we put in is we put in the lab reports. We put in the shoe report that showed there was a shoe print there that day. That's what the defense put in. The defense put in all kinds of other evidence in this case and knew enough about reports and things to ask questions. if you think about, and I'll try to go through some of it as we go along, but a lot of the, quote, the evidence that Jason Autry talks about, the things that he's using that are going to bolster his story, are things and information that would have been available to him as he was going through the evidence. And you remember Rita Austin testified that when she went to go see Jason, he showed her the report on the pink panties that are found outside Shane's house, and that the DNA showed that they were not Holly Bobo's underwear. And the DNA showed that there was an unidentified female and male on the underwear. And he also was able to tell them that Holly was shot and which direction the bullet in Holly's skull was going, where it entered, where it exited, and the 3 shell casings that were found at the site. And those are also that's the evidence that the TBI lab person at the body recovery site talked about, those 3 same shell casings. So Jason knew that Brian Vitt was there mowing his grass that morning. You heard Brian Vitt, when I questioned him, he admitted that yes, he had given that report to law enforcement early on in the case. And so he had made a report that he was outside that morning along Yellow Springs Road. So that's a fact that Jason would have known by throwing in that these things occurred near there. He now seems to have put himself actually there that morning because he says, well, I saw this person. But in fact, Brian Vitt didn't see Jason Autry there that morning. And so there's nothing that counter corroborates Jason's story. Jason also knew that the cable guy would have been coming to Shane's house that morning. That would have been in a report, and Jason would have known what Victor Dinsmore said because that would have been in a report. And the fact, Brenda O'Brien, she's the woman whose father owns the pond across from Kelly's Ridge, who said that a person, a PT Cruiser, showed up that day. Jason would have had access because Brenda O'Brien said she called the police just a few days later after that happened and shortly after Holly disappeared to report that as suspicious activity in relation to Holly disappearing. So that's another piece of information that Jason Autry would have had when he was preparing his story. So now we'll go to our next slide. So Jason Autry, he's talking about showing up at Shane's house. So he says that he shows up at Shane's house that morning. And if you'll look at the phone record evidence that's been put in, and the report from our phone expert, Jason Autry's phone never hits off of that cell tower that's there by Shane Austin's house. It doesn't ever show that Jason is over there. So if you're looking at that as to when Jason might have been there, it's not on the phone records. It shows on the phone records that he's over by Zach's house. He's hitting off of Zach's home tower that morning, but he does not hit off at any time Shane's home tower. So he says he shows up to Shane's house, and this is just kind of an incredibly crazy story that he tells. He says Shane is running around with a gun in a holster. And initially, when Jason tells his story in January of this year, he says that Shane has a .357 or a .38, and that's the kind of revolver that he's got that day. And he specifically does not mention a .32. But later on, when the government finds a .32 and comes back to him and says, is this the weapon you're talking about? He says in court, well, yes, it's definitely the weapon I'm talking about. I can tell. Well, first of all, if you're going to believe his story, the gun that he saw, he says it looks just like the gun, but the gun that he saw years ago does not look just like that anymore because the gun that they have here today is very rusted. It's a rusted gun. It's been cleaned up some, but you wouldn't look at this gun right here with all this rust on it and everything and say, oh, that's the exact gun I saw, because if you're going to believe Jason's story, the gun has changed significantly. So, but yet he's able to just look at that gun and say, oh yeah, that's the gun for sure. And anybody that knows guns, I mean, if you're a gun person, you would not confuse a puny .32 caliber revolver with a .38 or a .357. If you're a gun person and you know guns, you would definitely know that there's a difference between those two guns. So he says that when he pulls up, that Shane's running around with the gun and that Dylan's standing in the doorway with his shirt off, and he has a strong smell of meth. He can smell meth chemicals and meth there. So I think clearly, again, Jason is implying that in the middle of the whole going and kidnapping, raping, murder of Holly Bobo, they've also cooked up a batch of meth that morning. And boy, those guys were busy, because between, I think it's 8 o'clock that was testified to when Holly's phone leaves the area. And I think that's around the time that Clint Bobo says he sees Holly walking off into the woods right before 8 o'clock, 7:58 approximately at that time. He sees Holly walking off into the woods. So that means between 8 o'clock and about 9:10, 9:15, whenever Jason says he arrives, they have driven that trip up there, which is a fairly lengthy trip. We have had our investigator map those times out, so you can sit down and look at those times. But it's a fairly lengthy trip, so it's a long drive that they've gone on. They've stopped at Granny's corn crib and raped Holly. All three of them have been raped Holly, and then they've come back and cooked an entire batch of meth. Again, that whole meth thing, the smell of meth cooking, that's a little fact that, again, Jason Autry has thrown in to make Zachary Adams look like a horrible person. He just throws in another little semi-crime, just another little criminal behavior that he has there to make him look bad. So he says he pulls in, and here's how things are set up. We have the PT Cruiser, and he parks right behind Zach's truck. He claims at that time that Zach has his white Nissan pickup truck there with him. There's the PT Cruiser right there. The pickup truck is parked in front of him. And then behind the trailer, he says this Shane's black truck is parked behind the trailer. And this is going to be important because if you're going to believe the state's theory in this case, and their theory is full of holes. I mean, they have kind of this mystery, everything's under the veil, and yeah, things are bad, but don't really pick up the veil and look under it, but here's kind of what's happened. And clearly the state is implying that after Zach and Jason allegedly leave to go to the river and take the body to bury it at the river, but then somehow Shane and Dylan are there, and they're the ones that go and dump Holly's possessions, and they're driving the phone around. I think that's clearly that Dylan is driving the phone around is what the government's trying to imply to you on trying to argue. But how could that possibly be when Zach leaves this house? According to Jason's own testimony, all that's left there is this wrecked black truck that's parked behind the trailer. So there's not even a truck there for them to leave, a running car there for them to leave and drive this 20-minute drive down to where Holly's phone or her lunchbox is found dumped and where her phone pings then at 9:25. So that just doesn't make sense. Also, let's talk a little bit about Shane Austin at this time. Shane Austin, who the government wants you to believe that Shane has killed himself out of guilt over this case, but that's not accurate. You heard Shane's mother testify before you that at the time, Shane had had years of a drug problem. He'd had years of being involved with drugs. He tried very hard to get off of drugs. The drugs started well before Holly. I mean, clearly, just based on what some of the government's witnesses testified to, Shane had been involved in drugs before Holly disappeared. I mean, Jason even says that Shane was into morphine and Shane was selling morphine. So if you're going to believe the government's witness, Shane is already into morphine, and this is before Holly is taken. And so, so Shane has had a drug problem. Shane had dried out for a while. He had gotten off the drugs. He'd gone to Florida, and you heard his mother also say at one time he had been up in Pennsylvania working. And then he'd gone to Florida. He was working for his brother-in-law in Florida. And while he was down there, he had gotten back on drugs. He was making $1,500 a week. And after he died, he had no money in his checking account, or $200 in his checking account. So he clearly was spending a lot of money on drugs while he was in Florida. His brother-in-law found him high. He said that he was going to send him back home. Shane was facing the possibility of coming back home.
Thanks, Grant.
He did not. He had gone off the wagon. He was given multiple chances. He was really, really acting out of control because he was too high to get on the airplane when he was supposed to come back home. And he had torn up his hotel room, so they took him to a separate.
What are you texting me? We're not to the jury deliberating yet.
I know. I'm just wondering if you could check and see if it exists. We didn't need to pause. That's why we were.
How do I do that?
I don't know. I can look.
I mean, I'd have to stop this video, or I guess.
Well, no, I just meant like if you could see. I'll look.
Okay. Thanks, babe.
Hotel room. And so then they found him dead the next, or I guess by the time his parents got down there, they discovered that he had died. But the government wants you to believe that this is all related to Holly. This is not related to Holly. This is related to drugs, too many drugs, and somebody that has a bad problem, especially with a lot of money to spend and in a city far away from most of the family that could have kept an eye on him and maybe tried to intervene. So, and then also the state waved around some kind of note during the talking with Rita Austin, Shane's mother. They're waving around this note about read this and what does this say to you? Don't you think this means something? But remember, that note doesn't come in as for the quote truth of the matter. whatever was said about that, that's hearsay, doesn't come in. But there's no question that the people involved in this case had been big talkers and had said a lot of inappropriate things. But just simply because people were big talkers and saying a lot of inappropriate things is not evidence that, in fact, they are involved in this case or that they have, in fact, killed Holly Bobo. Remember, Terry Dykes testified that there were people in the case who had claimed to have Holly's head in their freezer. There were other people who had claimed to have Holly in the basement. And there were people that were using, unfortunately, and it's very inappropriate, but unfortunately, people that use Holly Bobo's name like a verb. You know, you're gonna end up like Holly Bobo. I'm gonna Holly Bobo you. You're gonna disappear like Holly Bobo. And that's what Terry Dykes admitted to, that was really hard because there were, we said, up to 20 people that had made different statements like that during his portion of the investigation, and his portion of the investigation was just through 2013. So that's unfortunate, but simply because people are using those type of phrases or going around saying those type of things does not mean that they were involved. I mean, after all, there was a lot of meth dealing, especially around certain people, because we heard a lot in that county. I mean, we heard a lot of people that testified on behalf of the state. And most of them, if they weren't law enforcement, came in and said, yes, at the time, you know, I was using drugs, I was using meth, I was friends with Zach Adams and had been using meth with him. So definitely an issue. So all this stuff about waving this around and what was said, if it had been anything.
Yeah. Hour and 7 minutes left.
Yes, she did a pretty long closing. Babe, the reason I asked you to do it is because I don't know how to get, unless you can share if you get on the screen and share the link with me, like I don't know how to find
just go to the, so you go to.
I'm there. I clicked on the Holly Bobo thing and
The playlist. You got the whole playlist.
But that's what I can't see. Like I went to their playlist. I found Holly Bobo.
So it doesn't look like, at least on this playlist, I don't think that we have deliberations because they only have the verdict and it's 13 minutes. So,
and the one right before the verdict is this?
No, there's the prosecution rebuttal arguments.
Oh, I mean, other than that, yeah.
No, then it's trial verdict and then sentencing.
Okay, so that's what I meant. There's nothing else before the trial verdict. All right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Sorry, babe. Law News was not on top of jury questions back in the day. Law News.
That clearly tied Zach Adams to the murder. Certainly we would have heard more about it. So next we have, in this story, we have Jason Autry. He says that he shows up at Shane's house and notices a body in the bed of the pickup truck. And again, here's another point at which Jason Autry cannot resist his temptation to throw in another little bad fact about Zach Adams just to try to taint him in your eyes, is what he's done. Because the first thing he says is, I thought it was little JoJo. You know, I pull up and I see this body in the back of the truck and I think it's little JoJo. And then he cannot resist but go into this story about how Zach has a beef with little JoJo. Zach has planned to kill little JoJo. They'd already discussed killing him over some kind of beef that he has with him. And again, it's just another way to get in little digs at Zach Adams to make him sound like a bad person. But clearly, that's not an issue in this case. There's the government didn't present any kind of evidence to show that Zach was in fact involved in the planned murder of somebody else, little JoJo, or the government didn't even bring up any facts at all about little JoJo or what happened there. Why? Because they're not there. The government cannot present false evidence to the jury, so they didn't present that because there's not proof in any way that anything happened to little JoJo or that little JoJo, that there was even any kind of conspiracy to kill little JoJo, whoever that might be.
Say little JoJo again.
So Jason says that he goes through this gate. There's a body in the back of the pickup truck. Jason says he goes through the open gate at Shane's house. Well, there was no gate at Shane's house at that time. Shane had only been living in that trailer 2 weeks. His mother testified that he had moved in March 25th of 2011. By April the 13th, it's only about 2 weeks that Shane has been living in that trailer by himself. He got a dog later on. That's when they put the fence in, was when he got his dog. So at that time, there was no fence, no gate up at that trailer. But it's something that Jason Autry remembered from another time. he remembered at some point there was a gate there. That's how you know that Jason Autry is not remembering from that day and what happened. He's just taken an amalgamation of different memories that he has from that property and put them all together. He's just done a mishmash of things. So that's how you know that what he says on that day did not happen, because there was no gate. He also says that he sees a burn barrel. Rita Austin testified that at that time, during those 2 weeks, shortly after he moved in, that Shane did not have a burn barrel. But at that time, they were still taking Shane's trash for him. They'd gotten him a trash can from his sister's husband's work, one that had a lid strapped on it that they could keep the animals out of, and they took that trash can and put it up there. On rebuttal, the government brought in Dana Bobo to say that he remembers a burn barrel there. Well, if there were a burn barrel there, and if you're going to believe Jason Autry's story, that there's a burn barrel going and that the flames are shooting. So if a burn barrel, 55-gallon burn barrel, is this high, perhaps to mid-waist, and then the flames are shooting 3 to 4 feet above the burn barrel, that is a really hot fire you've got going if you've got flames going up that high in the burn barrel. And he didn't say it was just for a second or two. He implies that the burn barrel's going while he's there and everybody's running around crazy. Well, if you've got this burn barrel there, if the burn barrel truly was there, why wouldn't you throw Holly's things in it? I mean, it sounds like it's a really hot fire. It would have burned that stuff up. Why wouldn't you go ahead and drop those receipts coming at noon? You've got 3 hours to get your meth cook, all the stuff from your meth cooking cleaned up. It smells terribly like meth chemicals. And they pause, everybody pauses, and they do a drug deal. So he sells him a morphine pill for $50 is what Jason says. So Jason's seeing the body there in the back of the pickup, because Jason says he sees the body when he pulls up. It doesn't faze Jason. Jason doesn't think, maybe I ought to go somewhere else to get a meth pill. They've got a body in the back of the truck. Maybe I don't want to get involved in this. No, Jason doesn't say that. He pulls up, parks his car inside the gate. Maybe when you see the dead body in the back of the truck, you think, I'll park on the street. No, Jason pulls his car down there, parks his car behind the pickup truck with the body wrapped in it, inside where he claims the gate was, parks there, gets out of the car, does a drug deal. So he now has gone ahead and made the purchase, and he's made the drug deal, and he's going to stick around and use the drugs there where this dead body is. Fine, if you're really craving drugs, go ahead, get your meth pill, and get out of there, leaving the dead body behind. But no, Jason's story is, because of course Jason needs to be there for more of this in order to sell his death penalty. He doesn't sell his death penalty. I mean, the state's not going to buy a death penalty for a story that simply you saw the body in the back of the truck. The state needs more than that. So he stops, he breaks his pill in half, he gets out his spoon, he mixes it with some water he has in his car, he melts the morphine pill up and cooks it, he injects it in himself, so he gets it all injected into himself, and he sits there for about 10 minutes, I think he said, getting high. So that's what Jason does. And then when he gets out of the truck, he's like, hey, what up with the dead body? It's just so nonchalant. There's a dead body there, and you're like, well, hey, why'd you kill little JoJo? Like, it's just no big deal. They say, oh, that's not little JoJo, that's Holly Bobo. And so Jason Autry absolutely knows that Holly Bobo is his third cousin. He spent summers with his grandmother. His grandmother was Sudie Autry. That's his father's mother, his paternal grandmother. They all live right there in Parsons area. His grandmother lived not very far from Holly Bobo off of Five Forks Road. So they're all sitting there. He says, oh, that's Holly Bobo. Now Jason wants everybody to believe that he did not know that Holly Bobo was his third cousin, when his father and Dana Bobo are first cousins. It's like, who's Holly Bobo? And then Zach says to him, hey, man, can you do me a solid? Can you help me get rid of this body? And he's like, sure, I'm in. So Jason's just like automatically in on getting rid of a body. It's a person that he's not responsible for killing. Jason is street smart. He admitted he had a long history of convictions. He is street smart. A street smart person that sat there and testified does not just automatically put themselves in the middle of a murder with a dead body if they don't have a reason to. So that's a silly to believe that somebody like Jason Autry would just automatically be in on helping get rid of a body. Sure, I'll help you get rid of the body. And they say, bury the body. Will you help us bury the body? So he says, I'll do it, but I don't want these other two guys knowing I'm involved, so I'll meet you up at the church. Because he just, for whatever reason, he's willing to work with Zach, but he doesn't want to work with Dylan and Shane. Well, the reason it has to be that way is because Dylan and Shane's phones are not.
He's feeling great discomfort. Zach Adam is. It's, you know, you're going to get the the sense, if you're the defendant, how a trial's going. It's such a weird set of circumstances, trials, because there's ebbs and flows, and you're hearing the state say things, and you're watching the jury, and it seems to resonate with them, and you're like, oh my God, and you feel hopeless, you feel powerless, like you feel like you have no voice. You're relying on this person that's sitting next to you, who either you've hired or has been appointed, and you're like, oh my God. It's such a feeling of helplessness for a defendant. It's like watching your life pass before your eyes, like in real time. And it's just surreal. It's just a surreal circumstance sitting in and out of trial. And especially if you're the defendant, and if you're the lawyer, it's just a different feeling where, like Jennifer Thompson is literally trying to cram every single thing that she thinks rebuts what the state put on into this closing with no cohesion. There's no rhyme or reason. It's somewhat chronological, but there's no jury that's following this. Forget that she's monotone. It's just, you're just throwing factoids out, expecting a jury to take something from it. It's like, as much shit as I was giving Baldy McBalden face, at least he was telling a story. She's just puking shit out. And there's just no way that a jury's taking it in the way that they should. Because she's got some important critical facts that she throws out there that don't make sense. I mean, the fact of the matter is that while I think she was definitely ineffective, she knew the facts of this case. There's no question. She knows that she's got bullet points. She's looking at them, when she's getting ready to move on to a new subject. Yeah, it's that thing, Christy, where you kind of, and I don't know if this judge isn't paying a fucking iota of attention to what's going. Look at him. He's probably looking at bras in the old Sears catalog. Like, she's got pointy boobs. Like whatever the fuck this guy's doing. And there is that feeling of desperation. When you're a lawyer, I don't know if there was a time limit put on the closings, but there's that desperation because as the attorney, it's your last chance. And she knows that the state's coming up after her and they get the last word. So she is just trying to get it all out there. It's rushed. And it's like, I'm not a fan of the written closing. Alan Jackson did a fabulous job. His was word for word, verbatim. Every minute, every second, every word of his closing in Karen Reed was written, and it was spectacular. But as a general proposition, I'm not a fan of reading shit. Like you're trying to engage with people. You're trying to suck them in. And if I'm sitting there looking at a fucking piece of paper, I'm not drawing them to me. I'm not getting them feeling anything when I'm talking about it. They didn't have fucking Wordle in 2017. This guy's back there, I don't know, looking at what he's going to eat for dinner. He's fucking, looking up the high school football scores, trying to understand the playoff bracket. I mean, look at him. His fucking jowls are epic. I can't tell where his jowls stop and his neck starts. He's got fucking 9 chins. And I'm not trying to body shame him, but he's a fucking pig. And I'll leave it at that.
Not with Jason's phone that day. It's Jason and Zach's phones that are together that day out on that Birdsong exit, that Birdsong 7 tower sector of that tower, and he knows it. So he can't put those other two with him because he knows that they both have records that show them other places around the time he's out at the Birdsong tower. So
Hey, Mark.
he's not going to go there. So he says, sure, I'm not going to have these two guys. So they get in he gets in his PT Cruiser. He backs out first. He goes, parks at the church. He says, Zach comes up, pulls up, doesn't even pull in.
I mean, that guy is not listening to one word that she is saying.
I mean, might as well be me.
Right. Like if the state were to object, he'd have to fake it till he make it.
Sustained.
Sorry,
I mean, overruled.
You know, whatever he'd say, some fucking stupid shit, make a bad joke, and then move on.
And he just pulls up on the street. He gets in the car with Zach, and they're driving away. And it's about this time that he realizes they don't have a shovel or a pickaxe. Well, if you're going to go bury a body.
No, it's not his thyroid. It's eating pounds and pounds of fried food for 50 years. And probably drinking 7 to 10 martinis a night. Or bourbons, old fashions, one of the two. It's not his thyroid. Everybody that's overweight, it's not because of their thyroid. Some people are overweight because they eat like savages. That guy, I'm guessing, is the savage guy. He's not the thyroid guy. Yeah, Brian, 100%. Old white men, I'm over it. You know, and now we know because of where he's at a few years later, meaning he's in full-time care because of his loss of his faculties, his mental faculties, that he was probably on the precipice of. That's not some shit that you wake up overnight. I know. My aunt is in the throes of deep, deep Alzheimer's, and it's fucking horrible. It's so sad. It's so sad for my uncle who, you know, is just heartbroken. 50-year marriage, and she doesn't know who the fuck he is and treats him like the enemy. You know, it's sad. But he has no business being on the bench. None. It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable, horrible disease. Like I'd rather get cancer and die than have my brain leave me. You know, it's like there's no point. If I have no ability to know anything of what constituted my life, I'm good. I'm checking out. I'm a vessel at that point and nothing more.
Clearly, that's the thing you need the most. Why would Zach ask him to come help bury a body if Zach knew that he didn't have a shovel or a pickaxe? Why would Zach have prepared, at least in his head, about where they were going to get a shovel to bury a body with if Zach specifically said, will you help me bury this body? Because he didn't say Zach said, help me dispose of the body. He said,
I mean, if you're a judge, aren't you mildly interested to hear what the defense is arguing?
You would think.
Purient interest alone. Like, oh, you know, like, okay, like, like, if you have any interest in the law, like, why are you on the bench if you don't want to hear shit? It's just so weird to me. Like, I'd be fascinated. I'd be sitting up there like, all right, you know, like if I don't know shit about the case and we just went through the trial and we fought certain things and evidence, but a new shit came out and I'm like, oh, wow, man, state did a pretty good case here. They fucked. You know, I'm like, okay, well, I want to hear what she has to say. Nothing. Blank slate up there.
Zach says, help me bury this body. Surely, if Zach's already thought that they're going to bury it, he's already got a plan of where he's going to get a shovel or pickaxe to bury a body with. But he doesn't, and that doesn't make sense as part of Jason's story. So Jason says, can you come help me?
I don't know if they're
They start to drive, and Jason realizes, darn it, we don't have a shovel or pickaxe. And that's when Jason tells Zach that one time he had seen a body floating. So Jason just happens to have, on another occasion, seen a body floating in the Tennessee River, or at least that little slough there on the side of the river. a body. He didn't report at the time. He doesn't mention to anybody that he sees a body, but he sees this body floating the Tennessee River. And he says, I saw a body.
Brian, is that a true story or a song lyric? Or is it both? Did you turn it into a song? Because it's got that song lyric vibe. Government cheese was my favorite thing growing up. In a dimension, man, took it away from me. It's pretty good.
The bodies that I've seen, the body I saw floating was floating because gas is built up in the intestine and you have to gut the body in order to make sure it sinks. So he says this to Zach. They have no discussion. Jason's testimony from this seat is they have no discussion about where this occurred at the Tennessee River. But Zach, he doesn't tell Zach where to go. He never says, drive here, drive there. Zach, by coincidence, drives to the exact place where Jason happened to have seen a body floating in the Tennessee River. The Tennessee River is a massive body of water, but he happens to drive to the exact slough, not just the same Nick's Landing area or Brody's Landing area. He happens to drive to the exact slough where Jason saw a body floating years earlier. Also, it just doesn't make logical sense that you'd go there. I mean, the one thing that Jason knows about bodies is when a body is in that spot, it is floating. And Jason even admitted on the stand that that spot right there is full of stumps. It's stale water, stagnant water. It's not flowing as part of the channel of the Tennessee River. It's a slough. And he admitted that there's lots of stumps there. So you're going to take a body, if there's stumps, it's shallow water. You're going to take a body that you're trying to hide from people and you want to sink down to the bottom. That's why you're going to gut it so the body sinks. And you're going to sink it in a place that's shallow enough. It has tree stumps sticking up from the bottom. That doesn't make logical sense that you would do that. So,
here's the problem with that argument. If I'm the state, I'm saying, okay, well, you're right. It's not logical.
They're drug
And
users.
Zach was a fucking meth head. Exactly. Thank you, defense counsel, for proving our point. This drug-addled mind couldn't get his shit right.
and
Okay, number one, what? They're talking about the string cheese incident, which is a band. But string cheese is like a little tube of cheese that you pull down. It's like usually mozzarella or some shit. The kids eat it. Never heard of string cheese? Runs with dogs? Wow.
remember at this time, Jason says that they stop there, they park the car, park the truck, and Jason gets in the back. He jumps up into the truck. I mean, clearly he's not afraid of dead bodies because he's the one that first puts hands on this dead body, as he's claiming. He jumps up into the truck. He grabs the body by the torso, picks up just the blanket. He just picks up the blanket and sets it right at the end of the truck so that then he and Zach can grab it together. They walk it over to this riprap, which he says is,
I don't think dairy is actually even used in Velveeta. I do not know what that shit is, but it ain't cheese. It's like they call, like if you read the packaging on Kraft American Singles, they call it cheese food. I'm like, what the fuck is cheese food, man? Like what? Like, I don't know what Velveeta is. Shit melts good though. But they claim there's dairy in there. Do they? I don't know. I don't know what that shit is. That shit will survive like a nuclear war. I don't know what the fuck that is, man.
a certain angle there on this. He gave a number. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what number he said it was. But he sets the body on this riprap at an angle sitting up. And I asked him, he says, as he's moving the body over there, he admitted that the body's been.
Do you guys remember when Kraft got outed for their Parmesan cheese all being wood?
No.
Yes, not the
Is that
good
a
shit.
thing?
Yes, it was a fucking real thing. They were like, there was some high percentage of wood, and I'm talking about the finely shredded Parmesan that bottle that everybody was used to, about yay high, not the nice shaved shit that you get. I'm talking about the old Parmesan where you shake it. Shake it, baby. Wow. Wow.
Ending in the middle.
Fargo is one of the greatest movies ever made.
It bent, like this, the feet and the legs come up. So we know that then this alleged body, he's claiming it's Holly's body, is facing face up, because it wouldn't bend this way if it were face down. So we know it's face up. He sets it on the riprap. He says the head, torso parts to the top, the feet towards the bottom. He says Zach goes back to get a knife out of a fanny pack. It's at that moment that he claims that the leg moves and he hears a sound. Well, he says this tells him that the person is still alive. Well, if Jason is to be believed, one, the medical examiner said himself that bodies express gas and can make noises after they're dead. So simply because he hears a noise come from the body doesn't necessarily mean that the body is alive or that the foot moves. But Jason never checks to see if the body's alive. Jason never even checks to see if it is truly Holly Bobo. Jason's clearly not bothered with knowing exactly who the person's identity is. But he says if there's this orange spot on top of this a blood spot on the blanket the size of an orange at the top of the torso. He sets the body down. He then hears it make a noise. He's all upset now. She's heard our names, and he begins to curse bad curse words and yelling. She's heard our names, and now she can identify us. Well, I asked specifically in cross-examination, Jason, when did she hear names? Because he says the only conversation, first of all, he claims that they drive all the way there with this body in the back wrapped up in a quilt. So they're driving on open roads where other cars, they might pass other cars, and they have a body in the back of the truck wrapped in a quilt, and that's all. Jason says when he pulls up in the driveway, he can tell it's a body wrapped up in a farm blanket style, an old farm style blanket quilt. So he can pull up and he sees that he can tell when he looks at it in the back of the truck, it's a body. Because he instantly says, why don't you kill little JoJo? So he thinks it's a body. So why would a logical person drive around with a body that's clearly recognizable as a body wrapped up in a blanket with a size of an orange blood spot near the top of the torso? Why would you drive around with that in the back of your pickup, 25 minutes over to the river? And we have, the investigator drove that route that Jason Autry gives as to how long it takes. And we have all those times over there. Why wouldn't you at least put cardboard over it or plop something on top of it so if somebody drives by you, they wouldn't notice that it's a body in the back of the truck? That's a ridiculous story. But this is a story that Jason has come up with. It's what he needs to sell to the prosecutors. So, and the next thing that's ridiculous is if you look at this map where he's talking about as they turn off Ward Hill, and the government has provided these overhead satellite pictures. I provided some satellite pictures. As you drive along this road and it snakes along, Jason even says it's a narrow road. There are no margins. There's no on the side of the road. I can't think of the word. No, not margin. Median. Shoulder. Yes, there's no shoulder on the side of the road there to really get over. Why would you, if you're going to be stuck with a body, it's you, Zach Adams, and a dead body of some young, beautiful girl. Why would you go down in an area that has only one access in and one access out? Somebody else comes along that area and they're in the middle of that road. You are stuck. And if it's law enforcement that just wants to come up and just be a little nosy about why are you there, you can't get out. There's not a second road out of there because you are landlocked, you're waterlocked in there in that little. Why would you go there with a body that you don't want anyone to catch you with? That doesn't make sense either. But and it's a narrow road there. So that's where Jason says that Zach automatically just drove to where he had seen a dead body before. Anyway, they set the body on top. He says, oh, she's alive. Now she's heard our names, although Jason on cross-examination doesn't give any specific examples of when they would have heard his name, because as far as he knows, Zach's never called him out by name. The only conversation they had was about the dead body driving over there, and there wasn't any other conversation on the way there. So he says, so now Zach pulls out a gun. Jason's like, wait, let me go check. So Jason runs down to the end of the curve of the road to make sure nobody's coming. Well, that's probably a wise idea, considering the fact that it's only one road in, one road out, but he's not at the very end of the road. Anyway, he runs down there to make sure nobody's coming, gives Zach the all clear. Zach shoots the body. Now, this doesn't make sense. He says Zach walks up and standing over at the top of the body and he shoots the body. Well, he's already described laying Holly Bobo down on her back. she bent in the middle. I asked him. He lays her down on her back. Zach stands up and shoots. We heard the medical examiner say that the exit wound was in the back right-hand side and came out through the front. So how does he shoot her? He did not say, and this would be very important. I know I walked him through it piece by piece. I know it was painful for the jury to have to sit there and listen piece by piece. As I said, then what did you do next? Then what did you do next? How did Zach stand? He says Zach stands over her and shoots her. He does not say Zach lifts her up, flops her head down, so now she's on her stomach and shoots her. He doesn't. He says he's standing up over her and leans down and shoots her. That's not the wound that's on Holly Bobo's skull. So that's not what happened. That's, again, Jason's made up a story, but he's not thinking it through long enough to get it the right direction. And he says, it's going from if you listen to the medical examiner, it goes slightly from low to high, from lower to higher, a little from left to right, from right to left. And so that's not how Jason describes that gunshot at all. And at this point, I would like for you all, when you get back there in deliberations, please look at Exhibit 241. This is the Birdsong 7 sector. This is about all the times that the people in this case, their cell phones were over in that area, pinging off of that tower. And it's very important because Jason Autry, he's claiming that they're over there that day for something nefarious. Well, that's all Jason has to do in order to make this story right is he just remembers a little bit that he was over there that day with Zach Adams, and then he can make a big killing story out of it, and he gives the government what they want, because what the government really needs for their first-degree death penalty case is an eyewitness to the murder. And so that's what Jason Autry has given them, is an eyewitness to the murder, and that's what they needed to get the death penalty. And so, but if you look at all the times they're over there, Jason Autry's over there on April the 6th, April the 9th. Zach Adams is over there on April the 10th. Dylan Adams is over there on April the 11th. Zach is over there on April the 11th, later on that day. And then Jason Autry and Zach are over there together on the 11th, from about 9:30 through sometime that 9:30 in the morning through about 5 in the afternoon. Jason and Zach, their phones are both over there hitting off of that tower. They're over there together. That's 2 days before this alleged murder took place. They're both over there hitting off of that same tower on the river. Then Jason and Zach are back over there on the 13th. On the 14th, Jason goes back, and Jason and Zach are both back over there on the 14th at 6:44 p.m., hitting off of that same tower. They're over there. They're still over there on the 14th till about, looks like about 9 o'clock, 9:30. So why in goodness sakes would you, if you're sitting there, your friend has just shot this person, boom, and Jason describes the shot rings out, and that goes boom, 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 boom. It's this really loud, birds, all the purple martins go flying, and he hears this mystery boat start in the background. Vroom. So he's like, we've got to get out of here. We may have been seen, or somebody's here, we might be seen. They don't even dispose of the body. They're in such a rush to get out of there because he knows Jason is a wise man. He knows they're on federal property. This is now a federal crime to shoot a gun on federal property, and they are absolutely afraid of what would happen. So they have to get out of there. Why in the world would you go back the very next day and be in the very same spot again the next day with the same person that you just shot and killed somebody with the day before? You wouldn't do that. That's ridiculous. That's how you know by looking at these records that they're not really there in order to kill Holly Bobo. They're there for other reasons because they go right back on the 14th the next afternoon. Jason's back over there again. You can look at these records, but on the 15th, the 22nd, the 27th. So Jason's over there with Zach on a regular basis. It's not a place, if you a popular place to go fishing. People go down there to go fishing a lot. It's not a place. If you have a whole county, Decatur County, a huge county, you live on a big bunch of land out in Decatur County. And there's so many abandoned, empty places where nobody is, where you're out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Why? Why would you go to a popular fishing spot to dispose of a body? You wouldn't. That just doesn't make logical sense. That's not where you would go to take a body, is to federal land where it's a popular fishing spot. And the whole thing about using the 32, anybody that has a 32, that knows the 32, use your common sense. It's a 32. A 32 is a slow caliber bullet. Is it going to go all the way through a skull and come out the other side? So they say they pick up the body, but yet, you know that the TBI had lab technicians come in and testify about the body recovery site. They went over the body recovery site piece by piece. I mean, she was saying they were shoveling little scoops of dirt up, just little piece by little piece, and sifting them to see what they could find in the dirt. So they were doing that. And you heard all about Holly Bobo's house and how the TBI lab people went over there and they went through piece by piece and just looked at all the evidence they had. They took out all kinds of evidence from her house. What we didn't hear from the TBI was about the lab people that went to search Shane Austin's house. The prosecution didn't put, not Shane Austin, the prosecution did not put on people to testify about the search of Zach Adams' house. And I asked Frank Booth about it. He said they took hundreds of items, could be hundreds of items out of there. There could be as many as 500 items that the lab tested in this case looking for evidence. And yet this government doesn't put those witnesses on. Why? And what about the body recovery site? You know, if at the body recovery site they're there sifting through things, you know that they went to the Tennessee River and did the same thing. They didn't put on any proof about anybody being at the Tennessee River, sifting through the dirt, looking for little pieces of bone fragment, teeth, quilts, any kind of DNA or blood evidence from where Holly was shot there on the riprap. They didn't put that in. Why? Because there's nothing that showed up there. So their story is that she shot with this gun up there on the riprap. They pick up the blanket. Jason doesn't say that they sit down and pick up all the little pieces. How do they account for that being gone? How do they account for the fact that you can find teeth at the body recovery site, but there's no kind of evidence at all at the Tennessee River? So Jason says that now.
All right, per usual, I talked way too much during the live, so there's no way we're going to be able to finish this. I've got to leave for Scout's hitting lesson
All right.
in like 9 minutes.
She wanted you to, she wants you to bring the stuff to her. She's right around the corner.
What? Wait, what stuff?
Whatever she needs. She thought there was practice.
Well, there is after the hitting instruction.
Right. So everything she needs, like what her bag and.
Well, but she asked for shorts. I don't know what shorts. She's like, "Can you bring my shorts?" I'm like, "What? What do you mean my shorts? Is there
want me to go grab her a pair of shorts?"
Yeah, I
just let it play.
I pulled 3 things and put them on your rehab chair in our room. See if any of those, like the white things, look gigantic to me. I don't know.
All right.
What do I know?
Switch to the next slide. Jason says that he recognizes now that Zach is in a bind, but not him, because as Jason tells the story, he threads the needle. It's like sending a needle through some kind of material where you're so careful.
Runs with dog. Listen, it's not how this shit works with a 13-year-old. There's no figuring it out. I don't want to hear her shit when I bring her the wrong thing. It's a teenage girl thing. It's a teenage girl thing. They're tough eggs to crack, those young ladies.
Never catch a single thread of the material. You weave it through exactly. So Jason has just woven this very careful story where he weaves some of the evidence that he knows is in the case in, but he's carefully kept himself out. Rape in this case. And he certainly is not, from the way he describes it, involved in the murder in this case. He's simply a witness to the murder. He's not involved in the rape, and he's not involved in the kidnapping. Because he's carefully kept himself out of all the bad stuff. He's more worried that day about being late for lunch with his girlfriend than he is about what just happened in this whole body disposal. And the government has also mentioned about the 911 call that day and what the 911 call shows us. Well, I'll tell you what the 911 call from that very day shows us. It shows us, one, Zach didn't have a car or truck. He doesn't have a vehicle because he's desperately trying to get his brother to provide him with one or his grandfather to provide him with one. He wants his grandfather's van and his brother's truck. It also shows that Zach does not have a gun on that day because his grandfather says he didn't have a gun. And it shows that Zach is absolutely obsessed with his girlfriend, Rebecca, because he says, "Paul, you just don't understand. I love Becca so much." So he's crying to his grandfather. He's not violent. He's there crying with his grandfather, begging for a car begging his grandfather to please not call the police. Please don't violate his bond because he's already bonded out on the charges of Natchez Trace. Please don't violate my bond. I'm digging myself in the hole. I got to get out of it. That's what it shows that Zach Adams' state of mind was that day.
Wow.
If we can just skip to the next slide. But Jason Autry, let's talk about what's wrong with Jason Autry's story. Clearly, Jason Autry is a psychopath. But Jason Autry is very well coached when he was giving the story because 3 times he used the word allegedly. If you're really telling a story about what you saw, you would never, ever use the word allegedly. You would say, yeah, I was there. I was where they killed her. I was right there where they killed her. This is where they shot her. This is where they dumped the body. You would never say the alleged, quote, dump site. So let's listen to Jason Autry in his own words say that and try.
Would you use the word evidently? I don't think so. I agree, Jennifer Thompson. That's not real. That's not a real confession. Evidently, I did. They're saying I did. I've lost my mind. So, I mean, okay.
Somebody has you marked as number 2.
This is after we got in the vehicle, you gave toward the ladies on the dump site.
I don't understand the question, Mel's mom. Richard Allen, is he on the list for Saturday? Who's RA? It's not like the only RA that ever pops in my head with RA is Richard Allen. So if that's somebody else, oh, recovery, yeah. Oh, yeah. No. I mean, not because I don't want him to be. I didn't know if he was covering, Is Scott covering the case? Spencer? I don't know. Now that's relating to one of Richard Allen's confessions, Gina, where Kathy says, "You didn't do it." He says, "Well, evidently I did it." That's what they're saying. What is that? Oh, those are the good ones? I did it. All right.
Okay, let's listen to the second time he uses the word allegedly.
So he said he likes my car at some point.
Are you going to just take my spot? Why don't you just sit in my spot?
So he just naturally took you back to your car.
Oh, shit.
You got out of the car, no conversation when you got out of the car.
We had a conversation on the way back. About an hour.
So again, how he knew.
I'm hearing that information. How much were the ladies waiting there?
So, I mean, if something happens to you and you know it happens and you're telling it from memory, you would never use common language about something allegedly happened. You use allegedly if you're not sure something happened, if you're talking about something somebody else said. That's a word that law enforcement uses when they're describing things. It's not a word that a witness would normally use. So now we've got the next slide. So Jason's story then is he shows up that day later on. So he already had a pill, which is 2 servings of morphine, according to him. But after they dropped Zach off, he shows up just a couple hours later because now he's looking to buy another pill of morphine, he says. And he says that they go over, starts at Zach's house. They all get in Dylan's truck. And if you remember, Victor doesn't say he sees Dylan. Jason says Dylan is there, but Victor doesn't say he sees Dylan. They all get in Dylan's truck with Dylan, Shane, Zach, and Jason, and they drive over to Dottie's, where for some reason they know Victor's there. How do they know Victor's at Dottie's? What really happened is Zach, that morning after he gets back from over by the Tennessee River with Jason, Zach went, picked up Shane Austin at Shane's house. The phone records show that Jack is over there by Shane's house. Then Shane and Zach drive to Parsons. The phone records show that Zach and Shane are in Parsons. They go to Parsons directly after the Tennessee River. So if you look at their If you look at their timing that day and their phone records go straight from about the Tennessee River, Zach's do, over to Shane's home tower for just a moment, and then they go into Parsons. So if you've got a dead body in the back, that doesn't make sense, because where did the dead body in the back of your white Mazda pickup truck go? You go to Shane's and then you just drive directly into Parsons. It doesn't make sense there. And Rebecca Erb testified, strike that. So, but they, it doesn't make sense though that you would be in Parsons and with the dead body in the back or blood in the car. So they go to, what really happened.
Okay, my better half is going to pull it up.
I got
If
it
you haven't
ready.
already. Okay. I love you guys. We'll probably wrap this up tomorrow. So I want to get her done. Let's get her done. Let's get her done. And I don't know if there's anything else that I'm like dying to cover in terms of pleadings or anything like that. Anything that's dropped or any kind of bigger stories. I don't know. But I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow.
We still have another 30 minutes.
Yeah, because we could just do the rebuttal tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I think the rebuttal is...
It's like 48 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Is there a Kelsey drop? I don't know. All right. Peace like chicken grease, y'all.
What really happened is, as they're driving back from Parsons, they're with Shane. It's just Shane and Zach and Dylan in the truck. They're driving Shane back home, and you did hear testimony that where Dottie's house is, Dottie Cooley's house is on Pew Road. You would pass by that as one of the ways you're coming back from Parsons. You pass by there on your way to take Shane home. So as they're getting ready to take Shane home, because he has to be there to meet the guy that's going to install the cable that morning, that's when they drive by Dottie Cooley's house and they see Victor's truck there. That's how it comes about. The story that Jason tells doesn't make any sense, because if you're going by what Jason says, how would they even know that Victor Dinsmore is over at Dottie Cooley's house doing any kind of work? But they go over there to buy a morphine pill from Victor. Jason Autry, when he testified to it, gave a long, drawn-out explanation of how they bought that pill, that morphine pill, how they passed it back and forth, the money back and the pill back. But that day, Victor Dinsmore denied that he had sold a pill to Jason Autry. He said they came over there and they were doing meth. Then you also hear this whole business about that they got in a fight because they let Shane hit it. Jason testified that they got in a fight about who they didn't have to kill Holly, and that Zach says, you're just as guilty. But if you listen to what Victor Dinsmore said he testified to the fact that they were fighting over who was going to hit it first. And let's listen to what Victor Dinsmore said.
Zach and Shane Austin were arguing and fighting, and I heard people's words on who was going to hit it first.
Okay, and so now looking back, Victor says, well, that was them fighting about who was going to rape Holly. But if you're going to believe Jason Autry's story, at that point, Holly was already dead and Holly had already been raped. So what could hitting it mean? If we go to the next slide. Jason Autry claimed that hitting it meant rape, but if you listen to what he says, he uses the word hit to mean a puff off of a meth pipe. Let's listen to him.
He sat down for a road, and they looked through, like, sit on the back, took a couple of hits. Oh, that's not.
And he says it again.
And what did he say or do after he said that?
He hit back a few times.
So it's more likely, just looking at the evidence as plainly is that they're over there and they're fighting about who's going to take the first puff of marijuana. Remember that the statement that they gave to Terry Dykes was that they went to Parsons and then they used drugs for the rest of the day. So it would make sense that then they're using the meth, that then they're over there smoking marijuana with Victor Dinsmore. And let's talk about Dylan a little bit, because now at this point, Jason's talking about Dylan. So remember, Dylan, we've heard testimony that he was in special education when he was in school, that he had mental issues, educational problems, and that he was special needs. He couldn't tell time. He lived with his grandfather. He wasn't able to handle his money. Remember, we also heard testimony that Dylan had charges in federal court. That's how this case started. And he was released. We heard Brent Booth testify from the stand right there that Dylan Adams was released from his federal case to go live with Dennis Benjamin. And as part of his terms of his supervised release from federal court was to go live with Dennis Benjamin, which means that if Dylan, if that's part of your terms of your supervised release, if you leave there, if you're not living with that person, they can violate you for violating the terms of your supervised release. You can be put back into custody. So he's sent to go live with Dennis Benjamin, and Dennis Benjamin is somebody that Dick Adams said he didn't think Dylan even knew Dennis Benjamin. Dennis Benjamin was not a friend of the family, nobody that they were close to at all. So he's released to go live with a stranger. Why is that? That's because at that point in 2014, the TBI was desperate. They were absolutely desperate. Brent Booth sat here and testified that no, it was just internal pressure to solve the case. There was no serious or tough pressure on anybody to solve the case. But then, as rebuttal witness, the government calls in Jack Van Hoosier. Jack Van Hoosier sits there and testifies and says that Terry Dykes is removed from the case. This is in sometime in 2012, 2013, that they said Terry Dykes was simply just focused on Terry Britt. They didn't have any reason to charge Terry Britt, and so Terry Dykes is taken off the case. That is incredible pressure. Once they took Terry Dykes off the case, he had not solved it 2 years into it, 2012, 2013. He had not solved it. They took him off the case and they replaced him with another agent. That is pressure. Everybody from then on knows you have to find somebody to charge in this case. It is absolute pressure. So they're going to find somebody in this case to charge. And so what do they need at that point? They absolutely needed some kind of confession from somebody. That is when they focused on Dylan Adams, who is special ed, and they had him go live with a stranger as part of the supervised release program because they needed to get this case started. Okay, my projector, there it is. Then Jason says 2 days later, can we go back up there? 2 days later, he says that Zach tries to make a deal with Jason to kill Dylan. Again, this is just for the benefit of making Zach look like a bad person and a bad brother, that he would then want to have his brother killed. So they're going to so Jason tries to make a deal with Jason. Jason has to think about it. Finally, he says, yes, I accept the deal. I will kill Dylan for you, but then I'm going to kill you. And he says he takes Dylan out to the river, and they go fishing first. And they've been fishing for a while before this man comes up, this strange unknown boater comes up. This strange unknown boater comes up, has now seen him and spoiled the plan. Well, if he really intended to kill Dylan, why didn't he go back and do it a day or two later? Dylan wasn't any the wiser. It doesn't make sense that that was the one and only time he had an opportunity to kill Dylan. If he'd made up his mind, why didn't he do it? It's because it's not true. He just says that because he really, really needs a way to make Zach look bad again. Plus, it also kind of, by putting him maybe in a little bit of a crime, it makes him seem like he's kind of bought into the whole crime thing. So he's not perfectly clean hands. But again, Jason Autry weaves that needle through that material so nothing sticks, because it's not actually a killing. He doesn't actually kill Dylan. He doesn't actually bring any harm to Dylan. And so there's no crime that you can actually come back on him and say that he's done something wrong. The other thing that the state has done is they've brought in this stuff about Dylan. So Jason says he talks with Dylan, and Dylan tells him something, and of course that's hearsay, whatever Dylan tells him, but then the next thing Jason does is he goes and looks in his granny's barn to see what's there. Well, again, that's just a backdoor way of trying to get in. They're certainly implying that some kind of rape or something occurred in his grandmother's barn. This is Jason's grandmother's barn, just like Shane's grandmother. It's the grandmother that they share in common. So he says that, something bad has happened in the grandmother's barn. But if you think about it and what's gone on there, it's not true. Jason Autry knew that barn was torn down in end of 2012, beginning of 2013. So when he's telling his story in January of 2017, it's once again, he knows that this is something that cannot be traced. He knows that this cannot come back to him. The same way that he talks, if we skip to the next slide, when he's talking about being at Kelly's Ridge, he sees in the report, he probably was going there to burglarize the home. You heard that the men in the home have all gone out to search, so probably cars were gone. They'd gone out to search for Holly Bobo. Jason's probably thinking that home's abandoned at that time. He goes up there, but he sees in the discovery that they were there, that they had been there to search that house, that the woman had called in a report about him being there. So again, this is something he can try to fill in. But if you listen to the testimony, Kelly Ridge Road T-bones into those people's property. Jason wasn't there to try to figure out where the body had gone, because even if he were up there fishing, that road T-bones. Kelly's Ridge is on the other side of the road and going directly away from him, so he wouldn't have been there to try to look for a body. Jason says buzzards are there. That's something that cannot ever be disproved, saying, oh, on a certain day buzzards were there. But it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Zach Adams would have taken Holly Bobo's body there, dumped it there, along with the purse and all the teeth and everything, and then at some point later on came back, moved the body, went ahead and moved the purse. If you were going to move the purse, why wouldn't you just pick up the purse and burn it at that time? Why would you go to the trouble of moving the purse but still keeping the ID right there with it? It doesn't make sense that she did that. The other part that doesn't make sense is he says that this is that Zach then tells him about Clint Bobo, and that the real reason that they were there was to teach Clint Bobo how to make meth, and that Holly saw us and she raised hell, and that's why he took her. That's not a good explanation. First of all, you heard Clint Bobo on the stand say that if he had known anything at all about his sister, he would have told. Even if they had been there to make meth, Clint Bobo was not going to protect somebody that he has absolutely no loyalty in taking his sister. It's one thing to be involved in drugs, but drugs usually get you probation. It absolutely, he would not have protected Zach Adams from being involved in the disappearance of his sister. Let's look real quick at what does Dr. Marco Ross say. He says the hole in the skull is 9 millimeters by 11 millimeters, but he used the anthropology report, which if you look at exhibit 174, and it's on page 13 of 16, that's where the anthropology report is part of the autopsy report. That hole is 9.24 millimeters by 12.10 millimeters. And if you take that reading, Dr. Ross testified that anything less than 0.36 inches could have made the hole. But if you're going to take the biggest reading there.
It's like she's saying words, but she's not saying words. It's like she's saying words, but she's not really conveying what she's saying. I don't know if what I'm saying right now makes sense, like if you understand what I mean, but I don't know. Let's see if she like pulls this together, because I thought it was a pretty big point.
That's based on a 9.24 millimeter hole. He also testified that bullets may not be round. At the time of impact, bullets can morph and be different shapes. So if you're going to use that 12.10 millimeter, a bullet as big as 0.48 inches could have made the hole, according to Dr. Ross. But a 32 caliber bullet is actually 0.3125 inches in diameter. So we can flip to the next slide. It's the 380. A 380 is 0.355 inches in diameter. It's not actually 0.38 inches in diameter. Just because a bullet is a certain caliber does not mean that, in fact, it's the same size. So a bullet, it's less than 0.36 inches in diameter and could have made that mark,
you can't just give a closing where you just are spitting out words. You have to connect with the people and explain it and bring it all together. And she's just spitting it out. Now, we'll see how much different it is for a minute on speed one, but it's not just the speed of what it's the way she's saying it and how she's not putting any meaning into what she's saying or taking the time to explain why she's saying it.
With the hole in the skull. So there was a 380 found at the site of the skull at the body recovery site. That's the bullet that killed Holly Bobo. It's not this 32 that they had. Holly Bobo was murdered where her body was found. What happened is the person that took her drove north. If you look at the cell phone records, the person that took her drove north. And that's where.
All right, so she happened to take a break from doing that right when I did this, where she's actually talking, not just spitting words out.
Her phone pauses. Her phone does not pause in the Yellow Springs Road exit area. The phone pauses up there when she's on Shiloh 2, Shiloh 1 area. Like our cell phone expert showed. That's where her phone is for 30 minutes and is unaccounted for. Once it hits Yellow Springs, once it comes back online and they start doing the pings, that's when the phone actually is moving. The phone moves. Each time they ping, they get a different number because the phone is not staying still. The phone is actually moving. So starting at 8:56, when they get their first ping, that phone is moving constantly and it moves quickly by where Jason Autry's grandmother's barn would have been. The phone moves by there very quickly and then goes down to where it's seen at 9:25, which is the last ping they get off of it. But so what happens is the person that takes Holly takes her up there, probably rapes her at the body recovery site where the body is eventually recovered. It's up there beyond the Verizon cell phone tower, so that's not a tower anyone's pinging off of. Takes her up there, rapes her, leaves her purse because Holly's probably had her purse with her, was carrying it on her shoulder, takes her up there, rapes her, kills her there, just leaves her purse, pulls the $20 out of it, but does not bother to take the ring. If these are a bunch of meth heads, and if meth heads truly are doing something just for the money, they would have taken that diamond promise ring. But the person that took Holly didn't do it, leaves her purse there, gets back in the car, and as he's driving away, the person that took Holly, probably Terry Britt, as he's driving away, he then no longer has Holly in the car. He's making a big circle back towards his house. He's throwing things out the window. That's why he would throw things out the window in front of the grandmother's house, Jason Autry's grandmother's house, and Shane's driveway, because it's not Shane. Even the biggest meth head wouldn't throw evidence of what they've just done right out in their driveway in front of them, especially if they had a burn barrel. So that's what's happened there.
That's what's happened, people. That's what's happened.
Victor Dinsmore initially did not remember that the white pickup truck was hidden in his garage. It's only after Brent Booth, and Brent Booth was under a lot of pressure at the time to solve the case and to get additional evidence for this trial, that Brent goes to see him and in May of this year and says, let me tell you what's going to be testified to. It's going to be testified to that Zach Adams' white pickup truck is parked in your garage. And Victor says, no, absolutely not. And then Victor suddenly remembers, oh yeah, it was. I'm sure that Victor Dinsmore at some point was a suspect, even if not very long. He knows he was a suspect. He knows that things were thrown out on either side of him. He was told by law enforcement that Zach Adams was trying to use his as an alibi. That made him mad. So he's, of course, thinking that Zach is trying to somehow use him as an alibi. He wants to make sure that doesn't happen. He gets mad at Zach, although they had been friends at one time. He gets mad at Zach, and so he is going to agree with what law enforcement says, because he absolutely, one, wants to assist in law enforcement, and there's a $250,000 reward out, and because he's irritated with Zach, thinking that Zach has somehow tried to put him in the middle of this. But initially, Victor Dinsmore said that it was the 38 or 357 that he traded with Jason Autry. And again, a little bit of truth is always something. Remember, Victor Dinsmore said that he had a second 32. Now he identifies this gun here, this rusty gun, is clearly that's the same gun he saw then. But remember, Victor Dinsmore said he had a 32 that he threw into his cousin's pond. His cousin who lives up there in the Parsons area, he threw a 32 in her pond years before they got rid of this gun that Jason Autry brought him. Well, remember, they put this gun in the water. At first, they had to somehow, we didn't hear from Sandra Dinsmore, but we must know that somehow she said that the gun was there by the water, but they got a backhoe and they were digging along the side of the road. What does that tell us? That probably Sandra Dinsmore initially said the gun was buried on the side of the road. They brought them down several times. When they couldn't find it, suddenly Sandra Dinsmore says, oh, I remember where the gun was now. Because they went back again and looked with people that had, so it had to happen that way. They go back again and they look with people that have underwater metal detectors. And they go back and they find this gun, this 32, which initially the gun had been a 38 or a 357, but they find this 32 sitting on top, under 15 inches of water, but on top of all this silt and soil. This gun that's been in that water since the Dinsmores left, and they left this area 5.5 years earlier. So since they left this area 5.5 years earlier, that gun's been sitting in that creek there. The creek, we even heard testimony that the road had been graded and blacktopped. With all that construction around there, all those rains, all those floodings that we've had, not a bit of silt was on top of that gun. It's been sitting in that water 5.5 years, and there's no mud, no silt, no gravel on top of it. it's still sitting fresh right there on top of all the gravel itself, but in 15 inches of water. That's not believable. But there's a big reward in this case, and people, you know, a lot of people, we heard that Victor Dinsmore was not to be trusted. He's not a trustful person. He sold Jamie Darnell a house that he didn't really own and took $21,000 from him. They want you to ignore the phone stuff. They're going to come back when they do their second half of their closing, and they're going to say, no, just Zach Adams doesn't have to be the person that kidnapped her. But what we know is he's right there with Shane, and they're going to want you to suppose and do a lot of guessing about what Shane and Dylan were doing. But again, they have no proof. There's absolutely no facts that show. Why is it that the government has to prove their case? Because it's almost impossible to prove a negative. How is it that you can possibly prove that Shane Austin was not there that morning, or that Dylan Adams is not there that morning? They have to prove they were. And in fact, they do not meet the description of the person that was there that morning. There's no proof whatsoever. The state wants you to make a jump because this case is absolutely so emotional. This is a beautiful young woman who has been killed in this case. And it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for the family to go through. But that doesn't mean that Zach Adams is responsible for this. He's absolutely not guilty. The other thing, they said that Zach has confessed because they have two different people in jail that say he confessed. But you heard testimony. You heard testimony about where Zach Adams is staying in jail. He's in the Williamson County Jail, and he's in protective custody, which means he spends 23 hours a day locked up. 1 hour a day, he can walk around, but without anyone else who can touch him. You know, he's separated from everybody. You also heard through the people from the jail say that there was one phone in the pod for everybody to use. They can hear the television through their doors. Some of them have to stand, some of them can sit on the bed, but they can hear the television through the door. It's also easy to assume that they can hear people talking on the telephone through the door. So when they're using the one phone, which is out in the public common area, everybody else can stand there and hear what they say. What they say perhaps to their attorney, what they say perhaps to their families, what they're saying about the case. So once somebody gets just a few facts about the case that they can use, then it's absolutely nothing more for them to say, well, and then he said he did it. But with all those confessions that you hear, there's no new information. Nobody has any information to say that Zach Adams confessed to them, and they have learned details that you wouldn't just otherwise know through something else. There's no aspect of this that has been explained, like who it is that went and took Holly, where it is that they took her, how they got away with it, where was the car parked when James Barnes walked by there. Nobody can answer those questions. And why? Because these jailhouse confessions are just not accurate. All it takes is a little bit of information, and the state has just jumped on that. Yes, we hear them say that Zach said to the people in Chester County, no body, no gun, he'd never get convicted. But those people came forward, although they came forward at first to say that he was threatening his brother to send a word to his brother in Chester County. The whole got no body, got no gun. Those were all things that were said here in court on the stand. There's no evidence that they said no body, no gun before. They said those particular phrases before they had found Holly Bobo's body. Terry Britt, you've heard the evidence on Terry Britt. It is compelling. He had a history of stalking young blondes. He lived closer to Holly. He lived fairly close to Holly, within a few miles on Jeanette Holiday Road. He had a history of rape. He was a sex offender. He fit the physical description, 200 pounds, 6 feet tall, about 6 feet tall, dark hair. At some point it was long and covered his collar. He was barrel-chested, skinny legs. Looked like he used to work out. He'd been in jail. People in jail work out. wearing a black cap. I have a picture of him in a black cap. He's
So he saw Holly. He was able to see Holly one day at the Dollar General store. Once he saw her, he has a history of stalking women. He knows how to find women. He drove the paper route there, so he's always back on the roads. He said he'd even get drunk and drive the roads. So he's on those roads. He's watching for people. He has one of those rape vans. He has a white paneled van that he even talked about. He has got a rape van. The other thing is he's got 2 vans, identical red vans that he's driving, but different years. He goes up, he punches Holly in the nose. He's standing there probably waiting for her because he's a stalker. He knows what her schedule is. He knows that this is the one day that that the brother Clint's truck is parked out in the garage. He's standing there waiting for her. She comes out. He knocks her in the nose. He has to wait for her to kind of get her wits about her so she can walk off in the woods with him. He walks off in the woods. The first time the deputies go by to see him, you heard Deputy Donovan, he's not there. Although Terry Britt claims he was back by noon, that's what he said there on the stand because he's a compulsive liar. He cannot tell the truth. But the marshals, when they went by at about 1:45, 2 o'clock, Terry Britt was not there, and cars were gone. Not just one car, 3 cars. There was only one car there, and he said he had 2 caravans, 1 white van, and a pickup truck, and a gold pickup truck and a black pickup truck. So he has multiple cars parked around for him to get away in case he needs second cars. So Jan is gone too when they first go by to see him. He's not there. It's not till later that evening. You heard Tony Weber say it's later in that evening when he comes back and he's talking to them that they're there, and that's when they're unloading the truck. Why? Because suddenly Terry realized he needed an alibi, and he went and got, and then maybe they had already purchased that truck before. They left it in the car till the police came by because he thought that the police would be coming by. He even says they're going to try to pin this on me. So they get trying to make some kind of reason why Jan would have missed work, like on the biggest news day of the year, and she works at the news leader in that county, the very biggest news day of the year, that's when she takes off because they had a bathtub leak, and Terry Britt even testified they didn't even put the bathtub in on that day. So the bathtub leak, whatever they had, was not bad enough for them to put the bathtub in on that day, but he needed an alibi. He needed an alibi fast. And they also they lift one of those receipts because the receipt did not match the receipt from All Goods. They lift one of those receipts, they fill it out as if they bought the tub that day, and then they they put the receipt in the safe, and they go ahead and just stage an alibi for Terry Britt. People that have alibis ready-made, those are the suspicious people. The people like Shane, Dylan, Zach, Jason Autry, they didn't have their alibis ready-made because they didn't know they needed one. So in this case, there's more, reasonable doubt is not a technicality. Reasonable doubt is not something to think, well, it's just a little technicality, we've got reasonable doubt. In this case, unlike so many others, there's absolutely multiple reasonable doubts in this case. You have a man who offered to plead guilty. He's not being played. You're talking about a U.S. Marshal with 31 years experience. When was the one time that you saw the district attorney in this case get the most upset? It's when she's cross-examining the U.S. Marshal. That's when she gets upset because she doesn't like the way that proof's coming in. This man has 31 years experience. He's trained in all kinds of, and you don't have to give Miranda warnings. She's acting like you absolutely must give Miranda warnings. There's many, many exceptions legally when you don't have to give Miranda warnings, and certainly it wasn't required to give Miranda warnings. But Terry Britt sits down and says, sounds like you've got it all figured out. I'll go ahead and plead and solve this, tie this case up for you, tie up your case. But you can close the case. Looks like you got it all figured out. I'll plead to it and you can close the case. What powerful words that would be from somebody. But the TBI at that point, you heard they had already decided they were going to focus on Clint Bobo at that time. You heard that in 2013 they were getting the family's finances, saying that the family had material lied about things, and so the TBI at that point, they didn't see any way they were going to get Terry Britt, because after all, you absolutely heard Brent Booth sit up here and say, well, Terry Britt, they bugged his house and they didn't hear anything on the wiretap about him confessing, and so they decided to move on to somebody else. Well, of course they didn't, because you heard Art Vivero say he was listening in on the wiretap when Terry Britt was discussing the fact that they might be recording and to be careful about what they said. So absolutely, there's nothing on the wiretap. And Terry Britt didn't have a brother with mental handicap that they could go backdoor and try to get some kind of confession. He didn't have a charge partner. It's just Terry Britt. He didn't have a charge partner to go and try to charge with him and see if they could do death penalty against two people and get somebody to change. So all of that. So final thoughts in this case. It was the government's job to fill in all the holes and complete the story. They've utterly failed in this case. Terry Britt is most likely the real abductor and the killer of Holly Bobo. You've had multiple agents get up here and testify about Terry Britt, and they all have years of experience. The government wants you to believe Zach is guilty based on mere suspicion and rumor. In this country, we do not convict based on mere suspicion and rumor. A finding of guilt must be based on reasonable doubt. And at this time, it's a very serious what you're about to do, because a man's life, and a lot of times they say somebody's life is on the line, but literally in this case, Mr. Adams' life is on the line. It's a very serious matter. At this point, there's absolute many doubts, reasonable doubts, as to why he did not commit this crime and why somebody else did. At some point in the future, it may be that they get the evidence they need to charge the right person. But simply because there's suspicious things that have been said, or Zach Adams has been running his mouth like a stupid fool, is not a reason to convict him of the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Holly Bobo.
He took her. He raped her. He killed her. He discarded her. He covered it up. He bragged about it. And he almost got away with it. He took her. He raped her. He killed her. He discarded her. He covered it up.
Sorry, I'm trying to
He
find.
bragged about it.
Wow. Sorry, guys. I couldn't find a thing to pause it. So I don't know. I mean, let's see what you guys are saying over here. Not much. Not much. I always screw this name up. I want to say like atheist, but it's atheist. Atheistant. Atheistant. I don't know, but I appreciate you and your continued support for 11 months. Here we go. And then she came back with a super. I think Bob did hopefully give a recap, but after, that's a lot to recap. I don't know. I'm not the one to recap it. So sorry, I apologize. And then Christy's a new member. Welcome. Aw, family hug. I just don't do it with the heart that Bob does. No, this was the first closing. We're gonna save the rebuttal for Bob. It just started playing like the initial closing because the other lawyer does the rebuttal. The one that did the here, I'll share this screen. She does the rebuttal. And that's the one that was handling the recent stuff. So I don't know. Did anyone think that it was yes, so closings tomorrow. Rebuttal closings tomorrow. I don't know. General thoughts on how that closing just ended? Yeah. I'll just share this tab. I know you got poorly. You know, and I saw a comment, I can't find it now. They were like, we want this to be good, and this is how we feel. So, you know, but you know, the jury was out for, so let's see, they got it around, so they were like 3 hours, just under 3 hours on Thursday, or maybe it was like 3 hours and almost 3.5 hours. But then on Friday, they went like 11 hours. They had 2 questions. We'll get into it when we do after we do the rebuttal. But yeah. Brian says, I think it was better than Andy's closing. You're talking about which Andy are you talking about? I don't want to go off half-cocked guessing. That's what I thought she meant. That's what I thought you meant. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Brian. I guess you just mean you felt there was a lot left out. All right, so tomorrow we are going to do, oh, hey, I don't know how many of you are left right now. I don't know why it's not showing up for me. Very little. But if you go to, and I don't know if it's too late now, like if there's a time window, but to the Lucy Studi Live and try to hype it, you might have to unthumbs up it and then re-thumbs up it, and it gives you the option, or that was only an option like closer in time to when it aired, which might be the case. But I thank you all. I thank you, mods. Thank you, Tracy and Mandy. And mostly, I want to say thank you to my husband, who can't be here now while I give him this great thanks. But really, thanks to all of you, because without you, Bob would just be an old man being old. Bye.